We are going to start today's program with a quote from a modern day philosopher. I dabble slightly in philosophy, Max. I don't know that I've told you. This is the quote. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Said by Fat Joe and now said by Denton Day. It is the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on a Tuesday. Appreciate you tuning in. We are live on YouTube as well. You can watch us there on the Team 980's YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Yesterday's price is not today's price. When we ended the show yesterday, Adam Schefter was on Pat McAfee, and he said that Terry McLaurin wanted more than DK Metcalf. He said significantly more. We're just going to say more than DK Metcalf, who gets $33 million a year from Pittsburgh. A few hours after the show concluded, the Denver Broncos signed Courtland Sutton to a 4-year extension, and the entire conversation changed. When we talked about Adam Schefter's reporting that Terry wanted just as much, if not more, than DK Metcalf, skepticism is what that was met with. Saying, I don't know. I like Terry. If you want to have a conversation about Terry being on the same plane or same tier, rather, as DK Metcalf, I would entertain that conversation. I might lean in the direction of Terry, not a massive lean, but a lean, because I think that DK Metcalf is a really good player as well. So if you want to lean in the direction of Terry, you can do that. Terry is definitely a better player than Courtland Sutton. There's no doubt in my mind about that. He ain't $10 million a year better than Courtland Sutton, though. When Sutton signs a 4-year, $92 million extension, any bit of leverage, which admittedly was minimal, but any bit of leverage that the Commanders had, or that Terry McLaurin had, swung immediately back in the direction of the Commanders. Because Courtland Sutton is now getting in the neighborhood of about $23 million per year as he enters his age 29 and 30 season. He turns 30 a month after Terry McLaurin. So he will spend at least a couple of weeks of the 2025 season at the age of 29 before he turns 30 in October. But he's about the same age as Terry McLaurin. And his numbers last year were very similar to that of Terry McLaurin. Now, if you take the numbers out of it, and you're not just looking exclusively at numbers, there's not a lot of people that are going to tell you that Courtland Sutton is better than Terry McLaurin. Nuances to the game, timing of some of these numbers, right? Terry had multiple game-winning touchdown receptions last season, could have had another one if they didn't kick to Turpin against Dallas off of what was Hail Mary number 2, although less of a Hail Mary, just late score. But you understand, you know the play. Everybody knows the play I'm talking about. Terry is better than Courtland Sutton, but how much better is he financially? Because I was running numbers. I tweeted this yesterday. You can follow me on Twitter at the Denton Day. I tweeted this yesterday. If Courtland Sutton is getting $23 million per season, I could comfortably say that I would give Terry McLaurin at least 27 to 28, factoring in that I, one, just think that Terry is a better player, and two, understand that Terry is beloved here in Washington, and he is a part of what it means to be a Commander, something that the front office and the coaching staff stressed to the moon last year when it talked about roster building. Throughout the course of the season, when guys were stepping up, they talked about, it's so great to have guys on this roster that are Commanders. So when you factor that Terry is what you want as a Commander, I would give him $27 to $28 million. Prior to the Courtland Sutton deal, I was thinking in the neighborhood of 30 to 31. Maybe 32, would not have gone higher than 32, would not have gone higher than DK Metcalf. I don't know the timing, or not the timing, rather. I know the timing. I don't know who told Adam Schefter about that 33 number. Was it the team? Was it Terry's agent. If it was the team, this is a calculated strike of, we're going to say that he's asking for an insane amount of money, knowing that Courtland Sutton is not going to get anywhere near that amount of money. And there are some comparisons that you are going to make. In fact, there's more comparisons that you can make between Terry and Sutton than there is Terry and DK, especially based off of the age. So I don't know if that was Adam Peters and the front office giving Adam Schefter a little nugget of information, realizing that he goes on Pat McAfee. I think Schefter's a regular on Mondays. I don't really watch the Pat McAfee show, so I don't know. But I think he's a regular on Mondays. Knowing that Schefter's going to take this information, and even if he's not, he's going to take this information and go public with it anyway. If anything, he would just tweet the thing. But knowing that Schefter is going to run with this. So it could have been a calculated strike from the Commanders. It also could have been a calculated decision from the agent, Buddy Baker. If that was the case, you want to talk about egg on the face. You're looking like an idiot now.
Well, and that's the thing is like the Eastern Motors presser it ran about, I want to say 20 minutes too long.
20 minutes, 25 minutes, something
yeah,
there.
So it would be, if it was Buddy Baker that put this information out here, it would be a long line of decisions that have just kind of shot yourself in the foot.
And we don't know that it was Buddy, so I just want to be clear on that. This is
purely
not
speculative.
Like, hey, we think it was him. But I don't believe that Adam Schefter is just going to make up that particular number, that nugget of information, and just run with it without talking to somebody. He had to get that information from somebody. But this makes the team look really, really good. Because if you've been trying to pay him 25, 26, 27, $28 million, and they're dug in on this 33 number, you point to Courtland Sutton and say, well, if he's getting this and he's asking for this, why on earth are you asking for more than D? Like, there is nothing that Terry has statistically that would suggest he should be getting paid $33 million. Just because Pittsburgh was silly to sign DK Metcalf to that contract doesn't mean that you as Washington, speaking from their perspective, that you as Washington also need to pay your guy that money. The worst thing that has happened that I'm very glad that our organization is not falling for is the constant need to reset the market. Like, there was a 4 or 5 year period where things got a little insane to the point where like a DK gets a $33 million. Like, you could argue when Justin Jefferson reset the market, he's a top 2 wide receiver in the NFL, he should reset the market. When CeeDee Lamb didn't quite reset the market but was in that echelon, you can point to CeeDee Lamb and the season he had just had, and as much as we don't like him, statistically you point to and say he is deserving of that particular contract. When Jamar Chase reset the market after having a Triple Crown season, you're like, yeah, duh, best receiver in football, he deserves $40 million a year. DK getting that money was a little obtuse, little short-sighted from Pittsburgh. They just needed a wide receiver. At that point, while we didn't know for sure that Aaron Rodgers was going to go to Pittsburgh, I'm pretty sure they had an idea that Aaron Rodgers was going to go to Pittsburgh. You got to get Aaron Rodgers a wide receiver, or else why the hell is he going to be there, right? So they're being a little obtuse with that. Adam Peters and the front office here realizing that just because they are overpaying doesn't mean we have to overpay. And this is why you hire an analytics team. You can take in the intangibles that Terry has as being a commander, but when Courtland Sutton gets $23 million a year, there's not a lot of statistical numbers that would suggest that Terry is $10 million per season better than Courtland Sutton. And you are not going to overpay your guy $10 million because of the intangibles. If it's, hey, we think he's $3 million better, but because he's been such a good steward to this franchise, because he's so impactful to this franchise, and the locker room qualities and traits that he has are so important, we'll take that $3 million and we will add another $2 million or $1.5 million, something in that ballpark, to where he's getting $27 to $28 million. That would be something that I say, yes, that's the perfect way of doing this. He shouldn't be getting 33, but 28 is perfect. And if you're Terry and they're offering you $28 million, you would be foolish to not take the $28 million. And if you are the agent, Buddy Baker, and there's a $27 to $28 million offer on the table and you are not taking it, it is foolish to not take that offer. If it's $25 million, and you're asking for 30, hoping to meet in the middle of 27, then keep this going on. This holdout, be in front of the fans, sign autographs. Hey, look how important I am to this organization, to this fan base. If you're just trying to get it up from 25 to 27, keep going that route. Eventually, I think you could get $27 million. But if you're under the belief that this, hey, I'm going to walk out when practice is done, I'm going to sign autographs for 30 minutes in the blazing heat, I'm going to be out there, make sure I'm on camera doing all these things. If you're going to do all that in the hopes that you're getting $33 million, my brothers in Christ, you got to reevaluate your strategy, because that's not going to get you there. And at a certain point, there has to be a come to Jesus moment. I don't often side with the team with most things, but there has to be a come to Jesus moment with Terry McLaurin and his camp, and realize no matter how good you are this season, it doesn't matter. You could go for 2,000 yards. He won't, but you could go for 2,000 yards. No matter how good you are this season, there is not a better contract that is going to be waiting for you in terms of the AAV next year. There's not. You're going to be a 30-year-old wide receiver entering your age 31 season, and the potential of getting a contract better than what Washington is offering you. I can't imagine the Commanders are going to offer him a better contract next year than they would this year in terms of guarantees, in terms of AAV, because of what I just said. So then you would have to test the open market. There is not a team out there that is going to value Terry McLaurin as much as Washington would, that also presents him an opportunity to win. It's the unfortunate reality of the situation that he is in right now. The best deal is going to come from Washington because they're not trading you. And there's no one in the NFL right now, as much as people will blast our comment section on our YouTube, will blast my mentions on Twitter at the Denton Day, there is no team out there that is going to trade for Terry right now, give up any sort of legitimate asset, draft pick or player, to Washington, and then immediately pay him more than what Washington has on the table, while still being considered a contender. It's not going to happen. You can throw me the Patriots, Saints. I've seen like the Steelers, the Chargers. Take your pick. None of them are going to trade an asset that would make Washington be willing to give up Terry McLaurin and then pay Terry McLaurin more than what Washington is going to pay him in an extension. His best value is here because of the being a Commander, because of the years that he has meant to this franchise. You leave and go somewhere else, that boost, that raise is not coming with a contract extension. And no one is going to pay, unfortunately, a 31-year-old guy $30 million per year. It's not going to happen. So there needs to be a real conversation. And again, we don't know what's on the table. Like maybe Washington is lowballing him. Maybe they're also offering 4 years, $92 million. And if that's the case, the agent is in a good spot because Terry McLaurin, again, is better than Courtland Sutton and provides something to this particular organization that maybe Courtland Sutton does not to Denver. I don't know how he's loved in Denver. I have no idea. I'm not going to speculate on how Courtland Sutton is loved in Denver, but I know how Terry is loved here. So you have that in your back pocket to get a little bit more money than what Denver is giving Courtland Sutton, but you're not getting $10 million per year better than what Denver gave to Courtland Sutton. So I've been mentioning this Adam Schefter clip. If you missed it yesterday and you don't live vicariously on social media the way that I do, we're going to play it for you now just so you can hear what Adam Schefter said. This was Schefter on Pat McAfee yesterday talking about Terry and the desires of his new contract.
DK Metcalf was the same draft class as Terry McLaurin. He got about $33 million a year. I wouldn't think that Terry is willing to take less than that, and I think he wants considerably more than that. Now, what it comes in at, we'll wind up seeing. Washington, they're not there right now, and they love and value Terry McLaurin, but they love and value him at a different price. So they seem, these two sides right now seem apart on a deal. Like they don't seem close today, and I don't know how they're going to get that resolved and figured out, but these things usually find a way of working themselves out over time. But as of today, I don't get the sense that anything's close.
I don't know if Adam Schefter knew that Courtland Sutton was going to be signed like an hour and a half, 2 hours after he said that. But he said that Terry wants more than DK Metcalf. He's not going to get more than DK Metcalf. DK is 2 years younger than him. You can look at the way the DK, his size and his speed, and say we can get something out of that. Unfortunately, Terry's like DK is literally a behemoth. He's like 6'3", chiseled out of stone. Terry's like 6 foot. So there's a difference in that. But him getting $33 million, Terry is not going to get $33 million. And there's nothing between now and the start of the season that would make it so he is going to get $33 million. Because at this point, you know who he is as a player, and you're arguing numbers and contracts and how that works in the NFL where he stands. And this Courtland Sutton, any hope that he had, which again, admittedly was not a lot, to surpass the DK Metcalf contract, any hope that Terry had just got completely speared by the Courtland Sutton deal. The question now becomes, how much should Terry McLaurin get? We know what Courtland Sutton's getting. We know what DK Metcalf is getting. There's a balance in between those two numbers. What should that number be? 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. I want your number on that, what you would pay Terry McLaurin if you were signing him to an extension today. 301-230-0980. You can tweet me as well at the Denton Day. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin on the Team 980. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. Tweet me at the Denton Day. Our conversation right now with 301-230-0980. How much would you pay Terry McLaurin, knowing and taking into consideration the Cortland Sutton deal? 40 years, $92 million. That's 23 a year. And considering what Adam Schefter said yesterday, that he wants significantly more than DK Metcalf, who is getting $33 million a year. I'll give you my answer in a second. You can jump on the phones, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Max, do you have a number in mind? What would you give Terry?
Yeah, so funnily enough, after the Cortland Sutton deal came out, I was home, I was sitting out back, and I did this exercise a little bit myself, and I just kind of, we're throwing numbers out there. That's pretty much all we're doing. That's all negotiations are. So what I have right now for Terry, I haven't really decided on the term, whether it's 3 or 4 years, but I that's the general idea. The $35 million signing bonus would, initially get a bunch of money in his pocket, 30 APY. So either a 3-year deal or 4-year deal worth either 90 or 120, with 75 million guaranteed. Those are and again, just throwing numbers out there, but these are the numbers that, my brain came up with that seemed reasonable.
So I did some math, and I would give him 27 a year.
Okay.
I go 4 years, 27 per. That's roughly about $108 million. And then of the guarantees, I would maybe guarantee a little extra. So Cortland Sutton got 4 years, $92 million, 41 guaranteed, which really is not a lot.
Yeah.
I was looking at a bunch of contracts, and I'll share some of this information after I take some calls here. But I was looking at a bunch of contracts, and the guaranteed number with most receivers is really not as high as you would have thought it would be. So he's getting 4 years, 92, 41. I would give Terry 40 years, 108, which is roughly 27 a year. And then I would guarantee probably about 60 to 65 million of that, fully guaranteed. Say, hey, this is like for all the good stuff, the intangibles, we're fully guaranteeing you this. We want to make sure you retire as a Commander. And again, as I mentioned, he's not going to get a better deal than that next year, even if it isn't exactly what he wants from a long-term perspective. I get betting on yourself, and Terry's story is great with that because he went to, if you don't know, he went to an Ohio State camp as a high school player. Urban Meyer said, I don't think you can catch very well. And then he caught like 1,000 balls, 2,000 balls, pause.
I thought it was 200 a day.
200 a day, right? Like something just insane. And then Urban Meyer was like, you put the work and you bet on yourself, I'm going to sign you. This situation is a little bit different because there are just age restrictions, and the NFL is ageist. Cancel them for that if you want to, but they are ageist. What say you? 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. How much would you give Terry McLaurin in a contract per season, considering what Cortland Sutton got and considering what DK Metcalf has got this offseason? Let's start with Bob in D.C. Bob, what's going on?
Yeah, man. Myself personally, man, Terry's a true number one receiver, so I'm looking around 31 to 32. You got to give him $1 million more than IU. And I'm on St. Brown just because they signed a year ago. So you don't have to go max DK Metcalf, because as we know, that's a team-friendly deal as far as the guarantees and everything that are in place. But I'm thinking 31, 32 is a sweet spot for me for Terry. I can't go below that because the other guys is below the 30 threshold are number 2 receivers. So if you want to pay him less than 30, you might as well just trade him for Devontae Smith. If you think that he's less than a number 2 receiver, I'm not saying that. I'm just speaking hypothetically. I think Terry's a true number 1 receiver. He's the top receiver on one of the most prolific offenses in the NFL. And it's one of the reasons is because of him. Not just saying just Jaden. He has a large part of us being a prolific offense. So I'm thinking 31, 32. Terry needs an agent. I mean, we got a sports group, and I go to negotiate for him so we get this deal done. I'm ready to put the football. I'm not going to lie to you, man.
Bob, I appreciate it. So I understand the perspective in which you're coming from. Brandon Ayuk got $30 million last year, but Brandon Ayuk just turned 27. That was his first extension. You got to remember, it's important to remember, this is Terry's second extension. So he had his first extension with the Ron Rivera era. We know about that, right? He signed it in June. He wants to be here. They got the deal done. That's the deal that he's playing off of now. Brandon Ayuk got his second extension last year, and that was $30 million per year. But the thing with Brandon Ayuk is that I do think is important to mention. Brandon Ayuk also had in 2023 a 1,300-yard season. Unfortunately, Terry McLaurin does not have that. Ayuk had 1,000 yards in 2022 and then 1,300 in 2023, with in 2023 Deebo Samuel missing some time. So he did kind of slide into the number one wide receiver role. And San Francisco understood that he's going to be our number one wide receiver for a long time to come, which is why they then traded Deebo Samuel here. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a completely different discussion, and this is not a discussion that is going to benefit Terry McLaurin in these contract talks, because Amon-Ra St. Brown had 1,200 yards last year, had 1,500 yards the year prior to that. He's had 22 touchdowns over the last two seasons. Amon-Ra St. Brown is not only a legit number one wide receiver, he is teeter-tottering on the idea of being a tier one wide receiver versus Terry McLaurin, who right now I would say is very much in the tier two. Like if you look at tier ones as your Justin Jeffersons, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, maybe Tyreek Hill, the Tyreek Hill now probably not. CeeDee Lamb is in that conversation. I would say that Amon-Ra St. Brown is straddling the line between tier one and tier two, where Terry right now is a tier two wide receiver. That still puts him in the top 10 range, but you consider the age and how long this contract is going to be, and I don't think that they're going to give him $31 million. In fact, if they were offering $31 million and Terry McLaurin would be declining that right now, that would be relatively foolish from both him and his agent's perspective. 301-230-0980. How much would you pay Terry McLaurin based off of what we saw Courtland Sutton get yesterday? It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin. Let's go to Jason in Laurel. Jason, what's going on?
Denton, what's up, man? Love to hear on this week. So to answer your question, I think his per year should be anywhere between 25 to 30 million. I mean, two of the points I'd like to make really quickly.
Yeah.
I love Terry. I'm 51. I've been a Redskins fan for a long time. I hate how Trent ended here, how Kurt ended here, how Art Monk ended here, how Brian Mitchell ended here. And I get how fans think, hey, we need to treat Terry the right way. Those situations are very different. One, it's a different group, different owner, different team name, different general manager, and all that stuff. The other thing is the market is very different. People need to understand this college player who gets played out of college. None of the second-round guys signed until like a day or two before camp. These people are going to start asking for more and more and more money. I actually think Peters is doing a good job because I want Terry here, but I don't want to sign Terry to a ridiculous contract. And anything, in my opinion, over $30 million for him at his age and what he's given us would be a ridiculous contract. That being said, I would like him to be here, but I don't think we should overpay him. And I hope Terry realizes that. And I hope the fans realize that, you can't overpay for an aging receiver. Good teams don't do that.
You are correct, Jason. I agree with that, and I appreciate the call. You can't overpay for a wide receiver, especially considering the age. The age does become important when you start to throw around more than DK Metcalf. I think if you're just throwing around 30, like if you are under the assumption that he deserves $30 million a year, we can disagree on that, but I do still think in the realm of being fair that 30 is a number that is fair. Like T. Higgins got 28, but T. Higgins is definitively a number two wide receiver in Cincinnati. Admittedly, if T. Higgins goes to probably 25 other teams, he is their number one wide receiver. Like I think very, very highly of T. Higgins. But if you want to pay him, if Terry is saying I deserve at least a little bit more than T. Higgins, that is a conversation that I would at least entertain. But you can't give him $33 million the way that Adam Schefter reported or said, not reported, but said that he was asking for, wanting significantly more than DK Metcalf. One of the biggest Achilles heels in these discussions that Terry is going to have is that if you look over the course of his career, not just last season, but the course of his career, how many elite games does he have? The answer is not many. Like if you consider an elite game to be $150 and multiple touchdowns, how many does he have? Not a lot. How many did he have last year? None. He had a couple multiple touchdown games, but he didn't have any game over 150 yards and multiple touchdowns. Now, he was really, really close in the Saints game. You could argue he was really, really close in the Pittsburgh game, but they're not going to pay you based off of close. I mean, the Saints game, if there was a couple balls that were maybe not as just a fingertip away, he might go over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then his numbers, because in the Saints game, he caught 7 balls for 73. If you add another 2 of those, because if you remember that, Jaden had that one. We just overshot him a little bit. There was one where Terry couldn't quite grab it. And these were deep shots. Like you're adding, if he connects on 2 of the 3 of those, or even just one of those, if he connects on one of those, you're adding another 60 yards and another touchdown, because he had 2 touchdowns in that Saints game. But you're adding another 60 yards and a touchdown, and 130 yards and 3 touchdowns is an elite game as a wide receiver, certainly. There's zero doubt about that. The problem is he does not have any legitimately elite games where he absolutely takes over. And everybody that is getting paid more than him right now, or at least in that echelon where he reportedly wants to be, has had at least an elite game or 2 and recently. So even though he was much better and he felt that like the whole offense felt like it ran through him a little bit more in 2025, not fully, obviously Jaden was the cog that made this wheel go. But even though it felt like it ran through him a little bit more and he had these 13 touchdowns, it never felt like he was a legitimate game wrecker, and he's asking to be paid like a legitimate game wrecker. And if you're going to ask for that, you better have a good number to back that up. And unfortunately, there are no numbers that exist right now that would justify him being paid $33 million or significantly more. $28 million, those numbers exist. I think you can easily say $28 million, $27 million. If you want to say 30, you might stretch it a little bit, but then you can factor in some intangibles about how great he is to the organization, what it means to be a commander for the locker room, things that this front office and the coaching staff have all stressed over the last year and change since they have been here. But $33 million, there's no number that is going to suggest he deserves $33 million based off of the guys who are getting that, who have certain numbers that Terry unfortunately does not. Let's go to Steve in Columbia. Steve, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good. Yeah, I'll just be glad when this is done. But I think the fair number is actually $30 million. And we have to look at Terry's value on this team, because I think if you take Terry away from this team, there's a big void that I don't think can be filled. And I hear all this stuff like, as long as you have Jaden, you don't have to worry about that. But I think you do have to worry about that, because even when Terry was here, sometimes there were problems getting him the ball. So I say $30 million is fair. I think he is better than Metcalf. Metcalf, we can say, was overpaid. I think he is better than T. Higgins. And I think he's below Brown. And as far as his age is concerned, we have to look at it straight up. He's unique. He doesn't get hurt, and his injury history isn't like some of these other guys. So I'd think 30. I'd leave it at that, 30.
Steve, I appreciate the call. That's a good call. Availability is what is going to separate him. Here's the thing with the T. Higgins conversations. T. Higgins had 911 yards last season, but he did not play the entire season. He played 12 games. He had 911 yards, including that Denver game, which I think was on a Thursday. No, that was on a Saturday when they were doing Saturday games. The game against Denver that Cincinnati needed to win, T. Higgins was legitimately unstoppable. He caught 11 passes, 131 yards, 3 touchdowns, and one of them was a game-winning touchdown. If you can show me a game where Terry has been legitimately unstoppable like that, now he's getting a lot of man coverage, yes, because Jamar Chase is on the other side. And if you're picking your poison there, you're going to say, we're going to let T. Higgins beat us, not Jamar Chase. But when you're looking at T. Higgins' numbers last year, you need to take into consideration that he played 5 games less than Terry McLaurin did. So the numbers specifically would be significantly higher, and he is getting 28. He's getting 28.75. So just a hair under $29 million per year. Also with T. Higgins, he would have been on his second year on the franchise tag this year, which would have been a fully guaranteed, I think, $26.5 million. So Cincinnati did, in a way, save themselves a little bit of money by not making that fully guaranteed number on the franchise tag. And you can kind of spread that out, lower the cap hit a little bit, which in theory was then helped with the Jamar Chase contract, lowering his cap. And then they have not signed Trey Hendrickson, which you would think that would have been the way that went, but I'm not here to general manage Cincinnati. I'm just talking about our team. So T. Higgins is also in an interesting situation because he is really, really good, but he just plays opposite of of Jamar Chase. Terry does not have that. And I do think what Steve mentioned needs to be circled, highlighted, written in bold. If you take Terry off of this offense, the offense does get worse. And your objective should be in year 2 with a rookie quarterback and realizing that this is going to be the final year that you have all of the great offensive coaches that you have. Cliff Kingsbury, David Blau, Tavita Pritchard, one, if not two, if not potentially three of those guys, all three of them are going to be on different teams next year, assuming the season goes really well this year. Most of them got interviews for other positions, some of which being promotions, all of which being promotions. But Cliff, potentially being a head coach in this league with Blau and Pritchard, they were getting offensive coordinator interviews, or at least slight promotions like passing game coordinators and things of that nature. If this season goes really well, all three of them are going to get that, going to run through that cycle again. And it's very unlikely that you will keep all three of them. So you should not make the offense worse in year 2 of Jaden Daniels, understanding that this is going to be the final year where you get all of these great coaches around you. The objective is not to make Jaden's life harder. The objective is to make Jaden's life easier. Could he go out there and play Superman? He certainly could. Do we want to see Jaden Daniels go out there and play Superman? Absolutely not. It was fun last year. That should not be the normal, because we've seen in years past with other quarterbacks, when you ask the quarterback to be Superman, what happens is they start a podcast called 4th and 1, and then we debate whether they're better than Jalen Hurts or not, right? Like we saw that with Cam Newton to an extent. We saw that with Andrew Luck. How did his career end? Not very well. Not on the most positive note, because he was tired of doing everything. So you don't want to make Jaden Daniels be Superman on a week-in, week-out basis, on a year-in, year-out basis. So you can't lose Terry McLaurin. You got to have him at least for this season, but you want him to be as locked in as possible. And I think paying him and then keeping him around, because the other thing is, it's not like they have a wide receiver right now that's kind of waiting in the wings to take over as wide receiver 1. Even if Debo is great this year, I don't know that he's going to be your long-term wide receiver 1. There's nobody else, and do not get me started. As much as I loved talking to him, if you think that Ja'Cory Brooks is going to be a dominant wide receiver for years to come, you are entitled to that opinion, but there's been nothing to showcase that. He was an undrafted free agent. I know everyone's falling in love with him. He was an undrafted free agent. He's not just going to walk in and be a superstar wide receiver for years to come. So you got to keep Terry here for at least a couple of years. I personally don't want to do the franchise tag thing. We did that with Kirk Cousins. It sucked with Kirk Cousins. I want Terry to be here long-term and locked in. This is getting a little convoluted, though, with some of these numbers that are tossed around. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. What would you pay Terry McLaurin in an extension based off of the numbers that we saw Courtland Sutton get yesterday? Jay is in Columbia. Jay, what's going on?
Hey, Denton. I think Adam Peters should keep his option open for looking for some trade options for who he can get in exchange for Terry. Somewhere in the Jackson Smith and Gedway type player. You got a guy who's on a 4-year, $14 million contract. He had big productivity. My concern, I really like Terry, but my concern is that if you don't give him what he wants, is he going to be just a negative presence on the team? I mean, he seems like a pretty classy guy. The other thing, too, is you kept talking about the number of times he got caught from behind by the defense on some long runs. That's not going to get any easier for him as he continues to get older. What are your thoughts?
So I understand what you're getting at with the Jackson Smith and Jigba. That contract is a very team-friendly contract in Seattle. As far as it relates to getting caught from behind, he did get caught from behind in that Cincinnati game. Obviously, that Cleveland play where he got caught from behind on that deep throw on, I think it was either the first or second drive from Jaden. It was a beautiful throw, it was a beautiful catch. But he also showcased later in the season in Detroit running away from guys, and in Philadelphia running away from guys. So you did see a little bit of getting caught from behind, but you also saw, running away from the defense and really running through contact, at least with that Detroit one, right? That was a screen where he kind of burst through a contact, and then he is off to the races for 66 yards. So I think you saw a little bit of both with that. The issue with trading Terry is that at this point, you're a little late. If you wanted to move on from him, the best opportunity would have been to move on from him prior to the NFL draft. So you can maximize his value and then replace him. Right now, there's no one that's going, like, Seattle is not going to trade you Jackson Smith and Jigba now. They're not going to do it. There's no one that's going to give you a valuable asset that you think would make this offense better or even come somewhat close to replacing the productivity of Terry. No one's going to give you that now. Even draft pick wise, no one's going to give you a great draft pick now. Even if they do, what are you going to do with a draft pick in July? It doesn't do you much for the 2025 season because you have to consider if Terry's going to get traded, he's going to want to get paid by that team. So who's going to give up an asset to then give up, potentially $30 million per season to pay Terry McLaurin? They're not doing that for Trey Hendrickson. He led the league in sacks. Terry is a good wide receiver, but he didn't lead the league in anything last year other than like contested catches, but you're not giving that guy $31 million because he's really good at contested catches. You're just not going to do that, especially if you are not Washington. Like all of the great will that he is built up over the course of his career here and being a commander and being a guy that is loved by the fan base, that doesn't exist anywhere else. He doesn't have that in New England. He doesn't have that in Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, just some of the teams that have been rumored. You mentioned Seattle. He doesn't have that in Seattle. All that goodwill, that great will does not exist elsewhere. So his best place to get paid is here. He's not going to get any more money anywhere else than he will right here. As far as him being a distraction, if he doesn't get paid, I think once the season starts, the main thing is going to be the main thing. I do not foresee Terry being a locker room cancer that would be vastly against what his personality has been over the course of his career here in Washington. So I do not think that's going to happen. Once the season starts, I do believe he's going to be locked in, contract or no contract. I'm just hoping we don't have to cross that bridge and the season starts with a contract. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. We'll continue to take some of your phone calls. How much would you pay Terry McLaurin in an extension, knowing that Courtland Sutton, similar age, similar production, got $23 million per year? More of your phone calls on the other side. TZ Seth is going to join us at 11, talk some analytics and how you would view Terry from an analytical perspective. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980.
All right, here's what's happening on this Tuesday, July 29th. Emmanuel Clase has been placed on paid leave as part of the latest MLB gambling probe. He becomes the second Guardians pitcher to be tied to the investigation, joining Luis Ortiz. According to the Akron Beacon, Clase will be out until at least August 31st. And not great news for Terry McLaurin after Broncos wide receiver Courtland Sutton signed a 4-year extension yesterday worth $92 million, about $23 million a year. He's the same age as Terry going into the season. And in 2024, McLaurin just had 15 more yards than Sutton and 5 touchdowns. Colts left tackle Bernard Raymond signs a 4-year, $100 million deal that keeps him in Indy through the 2030 season. Some more O-line news. Commanders announced that guard Nate Herbig has retired after 7 seasons in the NFL. Deion Sanders announced yesterday that he has beaten cancer. The Colorado head coach underwent a procedure to remove his bladder after doctors discovered a tumor. Since the surgery, it has been reported that there have been no traces of cancer and that Deion will be coaching in 2025. The Nats, they win their 3rd straight by a score of 2-1 over the Astros. Riley Adams with the lone home run of the ball game. They continue their series against Houston tonight. First pitch is at 8:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 7:40. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1 and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the streams and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
is the Kevin Sheehan Show. Dende sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. 7 minutes from now, TZ Seth going to be on with us. He's a football analytics, I would go so far as to say guru. So we'll get an analytical breakdown of Terry McLaurin and this Washington offense without Debo and maybe what we can expect in 2025 with the addition of Debo Samuel and some of the additions to the running back room. We talked a little bit yesterday about Bill, also known as Ja'Cory Crooksy Merritt. It is very fun, Max, just to kind of see pushback might not be the right word, but like a little bit of the pushback because we're so excited about this rookie that has never played. And when you tweet something about being excited about a guy that's never played, you are very quickly met with a, well, he's never played in the NFL before. Why are you so excited kind of a deal? That dichotomy is always fascinating. I do think this offense, once Terry McLaurin gets signed, is going to be really, really fun to watch because of the additions of Debo Samuel. And, you know, a lot of the guys who are out at camp, and Ben Standing's going to join us today. He didn't join us yesterday, but he will join us today. From what I was told, a lot of the stuff today at camp was maybe not as good for the offense for the second day in a row. They struggled yesterday in terms of the passing game and a little bit of the running game. Well, apparently it was more of the same today out there. There were some more fans out there. It's day 2 in pads. I don't know that we've seen anything about Terry being out there yet, but I'm sure. I also don't know if practice is over yet. Now that they have pads on, the practices tend to go a little bit longer than they do without pads. It's also hot as hell outside. You know where else it's hot, Max?
Right here, buddy.
In this studio. The AC is broken on one of the hottest days of the year. So if anybody wants to send, you remember those commercials from back in the day? It was like a Coors Light commercial where it's a bunch of like regular workers, construction workers. There's like some 9-to-5ers walking around a city. Doesn't say which city, just a city, and it's hot. And then the Coors Light train comes through and everybody's day is saved.
Need the silver bullet to.
If somebody wants to
through.
be our personal Coors Light train, let me know. Find me on Twitter at @TheDenday. It's hotter than hell. What is it? 82 degrees? Is that
80,
what that says?
It was 82 when I walked in, and Brian is reporting that it is now 83.
83. So the temperature is rising, and not in a good way. But we are going to push through. We're professionals. I got some cold water, and literally, you walk through the door of the studio, it's hot. You walk out the door, and it's like regular temperature.
Literally night and day.
Hey, get it? Day? Anyway, good pun there. I don't know if that was an intentional pun, but good pun.
I got you.
So anyway, we're going to talk with TZ Seth coming up shortly. We'll have Ben at 12. I want to know if there is an issue with the offense right now, what is that issue? Because if it is Terry McLaurin and the absence of Terry and some of the guys playing wide receiver just not being Terry, well, maybe that's a point of leverage for his team. It's not going to drastically impact the contract. It's not, if they're negotiating a $27 million contract, you're not going to point and say, well, everyone else on the team can't get separation. Give us another $6 million per year. Not how that's going to work, but I am going to be curious. I haven't seen anything. I'm scouring the internet now. Is Terry out there? Is his agent out there? Because his agent has been around the past 2 days. He's been around because I'm sure he is talking to people inside of the building, negotiating and seeing if they can get to some sort of resolution, albeit we've been told for the past 2 days that nothing is remotely close. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Dende sitting in for Kevin. TZ Seth on the other side, an analytical breakdown of what Terry brings to this offense and just what to expect from this offense in 2025. Don't go anywhere. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980 at the Denton Day on Twitter. We've had a lot of conversation, as you would imagine, about Terry McLaurin, his contract. What number is he deserving of? Cortland Sutton got 4 years, $92 million yesterday, a couple hours after Adam Schefter had gone on Pat McAfee and said Terry wants DK money, if not more, which is $33 million per year. Feels like Terry's going to be in the middle of those two, but what do the numbers say? And with help on the numbers, we welcome in my guy, TZ Seth. He's one of the great football analytics guys on Twitter. You can find him on Twitter at TezFB Analytics, and he joins us now here on the Kevin Sheehan Show. Tez, first and foremost, man, appreciate you making some time for us. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Great to hear you filling in on this show. You know, if you start doing really well on this show, there might be another contract dispute that's going to have to happen here.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there, my friend. So we've been talking a lot about Terry McLaurin, right? And I'm curious, you are an analytics guy, so you understand some of the numbers that some of us are a little maybe not smart enough to understand. What can you tell me about Terry that goes a little bit deeper than just receptions, yards, and touchdowns that we spend all day talking about?
Yeah, so when you look at Terry McLaurin, it's really interesting right now to follow this contract dispute because I do think that Terry McLaurin is a good receiver, and the numbers do show that, but he's not a top 5, top 8 elite type receiver that's able to get these market-setting contracts. The go-to wide receiver stat that we usually look at is yards per route run, which is just how many receiving yards you have divided by how many routes you ran as part of your offense. It's a really good stat to just get the efficiency of a receiver. And out of all qualifying receivers last year, Terry McLaurin ranked 16th in this metric. So he was pretty productive relative to all other receivers in the league, but he was not in that elite tier. And that's especially considering that he had an elite quarterback in Jaden Daniels throwing to him. So when you look at Terry McLaurin right now, I think that although he's a good receiver, I don't know if he's the type of receiver that's able to get the $30 million plus contract like he's looking for.
So in that number in particular, which is a number we have not talked about here, so I'm glad that you're bringing this up. Did you notice, or was there a massive difference in that particular number in 2024 versus 2023 when he was not playing with the elite quarterback? Because the argument here has been, well, now he finally has a good quarterback and you get to see what kind of receiver he is. Did you notice a massive change from year to year?
For sure. Yeah. When you look at that same metric in 2023, he ranked 46th in it, which was pretty good considering the quarterback situation that Washington had 2 years ago. You know, jumps all the way up to 16th now that he has an elite quarterback throwing to him this year. But we do have other metrics that kind of take the quarterback out a bit and just evaluate the receiver in the context of their offense. And when we look at some of the deeper metrics on Terry McLaurin, he is shown to be really, really good at the catch point. That's something that we saw so much of throughout his whole career is how good he is at the catch point. But in terms of the separation that he generates and the yards after catch, he's about league average at those and then very good at the catch point. So we can kind of see the type of receiver he is based on those types of metrics.
How does he rank in those metrics compared to a guy like Cortland Sutton, who he just got his deal? That kind of impacts the way that yesterday, Tej, I was thinking, all right, Terry should get 31 to 32. Then Cortland Sutton got 23. And I was like, I think he's better than Cortland Sutton. I don't know that he's 9 million, 10 million per year better than Cortland Sutton. Where does he rank in some of these metrics?
I totally agree with you. Yeah. When you look at Sutton's a better separator than McLaurin. McLaurin is better at the catch point than Sutton, and McLaurin's also better in terms of yards after catch than Sutton. So he does have two of the three things where he's better than Sutton, and I agree with what you said there. Like I think he is better than Cortland Sutton, but I don't know if he's substantially better than him, deserving enough where he should be getting like $9-10 million more per year.
What about a guy like T. Higgins? Because one of the things that we field a lot of calls, tweets, comments on YouTube, et cetera, right? One of the things that people mention is that T. Higgins is getting 28, just shy of 29, but he's a number 2 wide receiver. Is there a comparison between those two guys in these numbers?
Yeah, there is. And Higgins does rank a little bit higher than Sutton as well, which means he's also, right around where McLaurin is in terms of the tracking data metrics. that we have available to us. And yeah, Higgins is another guy where like his even if his separation isn't up there, you can still trust throwing to him because of how good he is at the catch point. And I think that's very similar to how Terry is.
Have you noticed with, I think the catch point metric, that feels like it could be sustainable for years to come, even after the age of 30, because people are all up in arms like 30 is old for Terry. Do these numbers take a drop off for receivers when they hit 30, or is that more of like a running back age cliff?
Yeah, it definitely hits running backs harder in terms of just each year usually decreases the efficiency that we see from running backs. We've seen a lot of pass catchers, both receivers and tight ends that are able to sustain pretty high catch rate scores going later into their career. Like even someone like Adam Thielen, who's been like an older receiver for the last couple of years now. Like he's been able to maintain a pretty high catch score. George Kittle, going over to tight ends has been able to as well. So I do think that it can definitely sustain for Terry going on to the next couple of years here.
TZ Seth with us here on the Kevin Sheehan Show. Dende sitting in for Kevin here on the team at 980. So you mentioned, Jaden Daniels, Terry playing with Jaden Daniels. How big of a jump did Washington's general offense take from 2024 to 23 with the addition of having an elite quarterback like Jaden?
I mean, it was one of the bigger jumps that I've seen since looking through all this data. I mean, you talk about a Washington offense in 2023, that was moving the ball at an okay rate at times, but just like had so many turnovers, so many pick sixes from Sam Howell, so many sacks that were, causing them to rank 27th in the main efficiency metric that we use in 2023. Then in 2024, they jump all the way up to 4th. In that same efficiency metric, like a super impressive turnaround. I think you give a lot of the credit to what Jaden Daniels was able to do in the offense. And you also have to give a lot of credit to Cliff Kingsbury as well for just calling really good play calls last year, designing the offense to fit the strengths of some of the pass catchers he had. Like I was impressed by everything that Washington did on offense last season.
Do you have models that lean towards predictive outlooks for 2025, or do you guys more just kind of analyze what happens?
Yeah, we definitely have predictive models, and a big factor of how well you're going to do in the next season is your performance on early downs. And the one caution that I have about the Commanders offense going into 2025, and this shows up in some of our predictive models, is they were very productive on late downs, the best in the league in terms of generating production on late downs. And a big part of that was how often Dan Quinn went for it on 4th down. But on early downs, they ranked about 10th in that same production metric that I was talking about. So if we see a little bit of late down regression this year, I think Washington's offense might drop a little bit. But when you have the elite quarterback, when you have a good play call in Cliff Kingsbury, I still think you can fight off some of that regression to the mean.
My guess is that from year to year, some of those late down things, it's very tough to stay consistent in that. Would that be correct?
Yes. No, that's exactly correct.
So how did the run game impact the offense? Because when we look at like a Brian Robinson, it feels like he underperformed in terms of his personal stats, but the rushing game was one of the better ones in the NFL because having Jaden in there. How did they look in 2024 against some of the other great offenses?
Yeah, so Washington did actually end up ranking first in expected points added per rush last season, just because of Jaden Daniels. The offensive line played very well, and I'm like very intrigued to kind of see who ends up getting carries at running back for Washington this year. I've seen a lot of camp buzz about Ja'Cory Merritt or Crosby Merritt, the late round pick this year. So, maybe he kind of gets in the mix and provides an explosive element to the run game. So that's definitely something to monitor throughout camp and going into preseason.
Where did Brian Robinson rank in terms of running backs? Because I had this conversation yesterday, and the yardage total wasn't ideal. He didn't get over 1,000 despite playing with Jaden, but he still averaged about 4.1, 4.3 yards per carry last year. Where did he rank in some of these deeper metrics as a running back?
Yeah, so out of the 50 qualifying running backs last year, Brian Robinson ranked 30th in terms of efficiency per carry, accounting for everything, yards, fumbles, like the situations that you were put into. I think like the interesting thing, for him is because of how good the pass game was last year, there weren't many defenders in the box when he was running the ball. So for him to not have a very high efficiency, like we see some of the other running backs that see these lighter boxes, these less defenders that are committing to run, I think was definitely a little bit disappointing.
So the team signed Von Miller. He's been out active at practice. Expectations not high for him because he's 36. Is there a history of 36-year-old defensive ends being overly productive at this level?
Yeah, I mean, there's not like a super strong history of it. It's definitely a position where you have to rely a lot on athleticism, and so I think that we don't often see older defensive ends end up doing much because of that. But I do think there is a little bit left for Von Miller just because when you put him in expected pass situations, third and long, second and even longer, like I feel like he can just tee up and still rush the quarterback at a decent rate. You just don't want him on the field on situations where he's going to have to defend the run or where they might target him in certain run concepts.
Oh, good thing one of the teams he's going to see at least twice, maybe 3 times, is really good at running the football with with those Philadelphia Eagles. So just a couple more for you here. This conversation has been fantastic, so I really appreciate it. Of some of your predictive models, are they anticipating that Washington is going to take a step forward in 2025 or maybe a little bit more of a step back from the great season they had last year?
Yeah, so it's interesting to look at these team rating models that we work on because Washington did improve this offseason in terms of just like adding talent to the team, which puts a slight uptick in terms of their team rating. But in terms of their projected record, that'll probably fall a bit this year just because Washington was so good in one-score games last year. That's something that we don't see is as stable year to year. Usually you kind of come back to 500 in one-score games. And some of the late down heroics that we talked about earlier, like if Jaden Daniels can show that he's in the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson tier of quarterbacks where he's able to sustain that year over year, I think that would be really cool to see play out. But if he's more in that next tier of quarterbacks, then we'd probably see that regress a little bit as well. But I still see Washington, as a very high-end team going into this year because of just, what they were last year and some of the players they added this offseason.
So I'll get you out of here on this one. We started with Terry. We might as well end with Terry. It's been the biggest point of conversation for the last week or so here. I said that I would give him around $27 to $28 million. You have all of the numbers. If you were Adam Peters, what would the AAV be on a contract that you would give out to him?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you there. The 27, 28 number, I think would be really good from Adam Peters' perspective. Just because, I think Washington can compete for a Super Bowl this year, and Terry McLaurin will probably be a big part of that. If he's on the field, like if I was Adam Peters, I'd be willing to go up to $30 million as long as the contract length was shorter. I think you don't want to get into a 4-year deal with him, where you're still paying off some of his contract when you have Jaden Daniels' extension hitting. But if you get into a 3-year deal with him, I think going up to that $30 million number should work out pretty nicely.
Yeah, that Jaden contract is going to be exorbitant when it comes. Taj, really appreciate the time, man. This is a whole lot of fun. We'll have to do this again soon.
Thanks for having me on. Great time.
That is TZ Seth, good enough to join us here on the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin. He is a football analytics, I'll go so far as to say expert. You can follow him on Twitter at TajFB Analytics. I thought that conversation was really, really great. And, a lot of the stuff on Terry is a lot of the stuff that you realize with your own eyes. For most of you, it's 2 eyes. I have 4 eyes. So I realized it with all 4 of my eyes that Terry is really, really good at borderline elite, if not fully elite, when it comes to the contested catching of the football. That's where he really excels. And we've known that for years. This is not anything new to anybody, but it's some of the other things in terms of creating separation and some of the athleticism. It takes a step or two back a little bit and is a little bit more in what you would call average in the NFL. And I think that's something, Adam Peters and this new front office has really made it a focal point to be good at analytics. And when we talk about analytics, it's not the stuff that Ron Rivera would routinely get wrong, where he talks about the data and the analytics having no understanding of what it was. That's based off of the decisions that he made as a coach, right? That's not me just coming for Ron. We saw this. He would switch up on what was right and what was not right on a regular basis. This group does not operate that way. So my guess is that some of the stuff that Taj just gave us is some of the stuff that Adam Peters and whoever is part of this negotiating group, the analytics gurus, are giving to him and saying, this is what we have on him. This is where we calculate our value. And if these two are far apart, like everyone has said, from your ESPNs, your NFL networks, your local reporters, everyone has said they're far off on a contract still. Schefter's saying that Terry wants $33 million. Cortland Sutton just got 23. If they're $6 to $8 million apart from this, there's no chance that Washington is going to be the one budging if they have all of this analytic data in front of them saying that he is really good at X, Y, and Z, but only okay at A, B, and C, right? This is going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. Believe it or not, I almost do feel like because of the Cortland Sutton deal, it does expedite the process of McLaurin signing, because that feels like a little bit of a reality check of maybe this $33 million number or more, according to Adam Schefter, but this $33 million number is not as sustainable, not as realistic as the agency and the powers that be of my group would have thought. We'll take some of your calls, 301-230-0980. What would you pay Terry McLaurin if you were Adam Peters? It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Dent Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980 in the Odyssey app. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Dende sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980 at the Denton Day on Twitter. If you want to continue our conversation of how much you would pay Terry McLaurin, you can do so. 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. I'm going to jump in on Happy Gilmore 2 in 15 minutes. I watched the movie. It's been very polarizing, at least in social media discourse. So I will share some thoughts on that and see maybe if I can convince Max to watch the movie sometime later this week. So that review is going to be coming up here in 15 minutes on the Kevin Sheehan Show. Had a really good conversation just now with TZ Seth, football analytics guy, who was breaking down what Terry McLaurin did really well compared to other wide receivers, specifically that of Courtland Sutton. And the biggest thing that Terry has going for him in these negotiations, at least statistically, is the touchdowns in 2024, though we have seen touchdowns are not always consistent from year to year. It's not as all over the place as sometimes sack numbers is with defensive ends, because every now and then you'll have a defensive end who bursts onto the scene with like 11 sacks, and then maybe he has like 2.5 the next year, if I had to guess, right? Contract year, you know what happens. But I think the touchdowns can be a little difficult to predict from a year-to-year basis, but Terry is really good when it comes to the point of attack and the point of making a contested catch, but he does lack a little bit in creating separation off of the line of scrimmage. It's not to say that he doesn't, and I need you to hear that, because when we talk about Terry maybe not separating as well as he could, we're not saying that he has never separated in his time as an NFL wide receiver. We have many examples of him beating guys off of the line of scrimmage. My favorite example is in that Philadelphia game this past season, the good one, where he beats Quinyon Mitchell off the line of scrimmage immediately, and Jaden hits him with a touchdown over the top. It was the first touchdown that Quinyon Mitchell had given up on the NFL season, and it was a huge play en route to that comeback that had all of us losing our minds last year. So he can separate. It's just doing it on a consistent basis has been a little bit of a point of struggle. And when you start to get into conversations about $30 million per year, $33 million per year, or whatever that number is, you need to be able to be good at separating and creating space against other defensive backs, especially considering some of the guys that you are going to be playing in the NFC in particular. We'll worry about the AFC when, we actually have to worry about the AFC. So I'm standing pretty strong in saying that I would give Terry $27 to $28 million per season. And on top of that, that's it. Like, if I'm Terry, I'm taking that deal. If that deal is pushed across the table and my agent says no to that, I'm going to need to have a real conversation with the agent and figuring out, hey, what do you have that would suggest I should be getting more than this? This is a tough situation to bet on yourself, so to speak, because there's not any team in the NFL that's going to give you any more than that money next season if you decide to play this thing out and enter free agency. There's a lot of goodwill, great will that Terry has built up here in terms of being a commander, being loyal to the soil when times were really tough, while being productive as well. Like, you're not just getting paid because you stuck around in a bad relationship. You're getting paid because you also performed on the field while sticking around in bad relationships. That doesn't exist outside of Washington. So no matter how good he is in 2025, he's not going to get a better deal than what Washington is likely offering him now. So if they get a $27, $28 million contract, you need to sign that thing immediately. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. If you're Adam Peters, how much are you paying Terry McLaurin based off of the fact that Courtland Sutton got $23 million per year yesterday? Let's start with our guy, Mark in Largo. Mark, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, Dan?
I'm good, man.
I know you're saying 27, 28. I think to be a little bit, if you're not going to give him 33, you got to get it. I would say give him at least 30. And here's the reason why I say that, because everyone keeps talking about his age, and I get it, but the man has been like Iron Man since he's been playing here. I don't think the age should have anything to do with it. If you're giving him $27, $28 million, you're giving him the same amount of money you're giving T. Higgins, who, by the way, the last 2 or 3 years has missed 5 games apiece, which is the reason why the Bengals haven't made it to the playoffs. So he can make an argument that T. Higgins missed 10 games the last 2 years. If you round it out and get him at least 29 to 30, I don't think 33 is possible, but I think 30 would if you give him 30, he'll sign the deal. I think he'll take that.
I agree with that. If he gets $30 million right now, there's no way that they're rejecting it.
27, 28. Right. So you agree with me on that?
Yeah, if it's 30, they would be foolish to reject $30 million in late July.
Right. Just give because and here's the other thing. It's the same. You're 28. You're talking about T. Higgins, who, in my opinion, if you look at he hasn't shown up the last few years, that's the real reason why the Bengals haven't been in the playoffs in 23 and 24. Because he hasn't played. He missed 5 games. He just missed 5 games, 24, 5 games, 23. So I would at least give him 30, maybe 29. I don't think it's that difficult, but, we just got to get this done because I think before it gets ridiculous, I do think the Sutton deal has kind of minimized that. But before I let you go, I was wondering. You sound a little down when the guy was talking to you about Brian Robinson.
I sounded down?
Yeah, you did. Because I told you yesterday that I didn't think Brian Robinson was going to make the team this year.
You did tell me
and
that.
You said, he's going to make the team.
He's making the team. He's going to make the team.
He's 30th ranked, though. Denton?
But who else on the team is better than him?
Yeah, I would take Merritt over him.
Based off of what?
I mean, here's the deal.
Imagination?
Here's the deal, man. Here's the deal. Denton, think about this, man. If he was a better runner, this offense would have been better if he was better.
Correct.
But he's not. And you want my honest opinion? This is where I agree with. I think if it was up to Adam Peters, he wouldn't be back here. I think the only person that's keeping him here and that's sticking his neck out for him is Dan Quinn. But I think if it was up to Adam Peters, Brian doesn't make the team. I'm telling you.
Well, here's the thing, Mark, and I appreciate it as always. It is up to Adam Peters because they've gotten rid of other guys that weren't playing up to snuff. They got rid, they would let John Allen go. They said, "Hey, we're good. We don't need you here anymore." They let literally all the Ron guys go. Brian is making the team. This will be his last season in DC, more likely than not. But he is making the team. You can't put all of your eggs, as much as I love Bill, Ja'Cory Croxy Merritt, as much as I love him, you can't put all the eggs in your basket of a 7th-round pick that you've never actually seen at the NFL. Now, if you want to gradually give him more carries as the season progresses and he lives up to what you envision he can live up to, then go for it. But you're not just going to cut Brian Robinson because you've seen him in one day of pads. They're not in pads today, by the way. I thought they were. They're in more shells. Ben Standing's going to be with us in 30 minutes to get his thoughts on what they saw in practice today. But they're not in pads today. So I'm not just going to put all the eggs in the basket of a 7th-round pick. Now, if he plays really well in 2026, you want to go that direction, go for it. I still think there's a little bit of juice left in Brian Robinson. Get him for one more season, and then if you want to move on from him and part ways in 2026, you go ahead and do that. Let's go to my guy Lap in DC. We're taking calls on Terry. Mark got a little bit off track there. We're taking calls on Terry, not Brian Robinson. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Lap, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up there, man? Good show, bro.
Appreciate it.
Getting ready for my birthday, bro, Monday. So
hell yeah, man.
Man, I'm celebrating Monday the 4th. I got the same birthday as Barack, so I'm in some good company,
hey,
man. I just
take a shot for all of us.
Look, I didn't get the invite. Yeah, I didn't get the invite to the White House to play ball and basketball in the White House when he was there. So I wish I'd have got that, but it's all good. I just think with Terry, man, they just disrespecting Terry, man, and you can't look at Terry any other way if his counterparts and peers are getting paid. You know what I'm saying? He want to get what's due to him. So y'all gonna have to meet in the middle or some way or form of fashion to get this resolved, man, because this is ridiculous. We're not trying to have this linger through camp, all the way to the first week of the season or in the season. Like it's just really sad, man. And a lot of these companies and corporations, man, they do this to good people all the time, man. And it's hard not to take it personal when you got companies that do that. You can have love in business. If you value somebody, you treat them like family, you can have love in business. But sometimes, it's politics with it, and sometimes it's business. So it's just like we got to start treating them like business too, because these companies don't be valuing us, bro. It's like with me, I got affected with the federal government contract situation. You know what I'm saying? I was a good worker hard, so I have to wait for another contract. You know what I'm saying? It's just sad, but you do this to good people, Denton, and you don't do that to the bad people, the people that really deserve it, the people that's taking advantage of it.
Yeah, Lap, I appreciate it. That's a great call. Happy birthday coming up next week. Here's the thing, though. You can respect Terry, but that does not mean you overpay Terry. And like that is the balance that we are now kind of struggling with. If they were to give him a Cortland Sutton deal of $23 million per year, that would definitively be disrespecting a good player, great player for your organization, bar none. I don't believe that $28 million is. Like we're judging second contracts versus Terry's third contract. The second contract is really where you're going to maximize your value, especially at a wide receiver. You're going to maximize your value on that second contract because people are still going to see massive amounts of potential in you, but they're still going to realize you are a peak athlete. And not to say, like, I'm not of the belief that 30 is where you fall off a cliff when it comes to speed or anything like that. But you have to be realistic with what you're giving him. And you can still, like, a $28 million deal to Terry McLaurin on a third contract, to me, is still respecting him and valuing him as a wide receiver. $33 million would be overkill. $23 million would be disrespectful. So it's this balance, and where is that balance going to strike? I believe 27 to 28 is a good balance. I know that Terry wants to be here. I don't believe that Terry thinks there are other great options for him out there, or he would have requested / demanded a trade. He has not done that despite multiple opportunities to do so. And you can't do that too late into camp. You can't come August 14th and say, hey, actually, I want to get out of here. That's too late into it. There's no team that's going to make a deal for you. So I think he wants to be here. They're just stuck in terms of what am I valued at? How am I respected? How am I not? I think 28 is still a respectful deal for Terry. Let's go to Kurt in DC. Kurt's been on hold. Kurt, what's going on, man?
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
Yes, I'm just sick and tired of this bashing of Terry McLaurin. And everybody keeps praising Adam Peters. He done got Larry Tosso here that had baggage. He done signed Debo to have baggage. Everybody keeps praising Debo about he looking good. He should be in shape anyway. That's why San Fran didn't want him here. Then they Lattimore. This man has been in 5 years with no quarterback. Put up stats there. Everybody want to break, but he don't do good, and he ain't doing this good. What did he do good? Nobody ever talked about that. I'm getting sick and tired of the bash and all these people like it's their money. I mean, pay the man so we can move on to the season. So we be 6-11 and 7-10. I want to hear all this. I want to hear all this enthusiasm then about this stuff. Thank you.
All right, Kurt, thank you. I tend to think that we've spoken about the things that Terry does well on this program, but maybe you feel differently. I appreciate it nonetheless. Rob is in Frederick. Rob, what's going on?
Hey, I was just sitting there thinking a little while ago when you all were talking about contracts. Supposing they would have told Art Monk at 30 that he's declining and don't want to pay him the money, he would have never became a Hall of Famer.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Does that mean that you're going to give Terry 33, though?
No, I'm not going to give him 33, but like you were saying, somewhere between 29 and 33, I think there's a happy medium somewhere in the middle. And to be me, I'd give him a 3-year deal with and 2 more option years as far as the club having the option. Then we'll go from there. But that's just me.
Rob, I appreciate it. My guess is that they're going to give him a 4-year deal, team option on that 4th year, with a majority of the guaranteed money, whatever the deal ends up being, with the majority of the guaranteed money on the first 2 years of the contract, because you're going to understand that on the final 2 years of the contract, you're going to have a big expenditure in the form of Jaden Daniels and whatever his contract is. And then on top of that, wide receiver guarantees are just not that much. Cortland Sutton's guaranteed number is $41 million, fully guaranteed on a $92 million contract. I think the way that you can show value to Terry is if you give him $28 million, like that might be less than he wants in terms of an AAV thing. But if you give him more guaranteed than some of the other guys in that market that we've been discussing, we're on the receiving end of. Like, so for example, Sutton got 41 million guaranteed. DK got 60 million guaranteed on what was a 4-year, $132 million extension. It was reported as a 5/150, but that 33 AAV that we get with DK, if you just do simple math, 150 divided by 5 is not 33, 32. 132 divided by 4 is your 33. So if you're looking at the 132 divided by 4, 33 AAV, the DK Metcalf is on the receiving end of, 60 million of that is guaranteed. T. Higgins got $115 million. Only 30 of that is fully guaranteed. So I think the way that you show value to Terry in this contract extension, even if that AAV number is not as high as some of these other wide receivers, the fully guaranteed money should be greater than those numbers that I just dished out. So if you're giving him $28 million a year, which is less than what T. Higgins is giving, I think you show him value by giving him significantly more fully guaranteed money than what T. Higgins is on the receiving end of. What I would try and do is match the fully guaranteed that DK is getting on maybe a little bit of a lower number, but the guarantees is what you're fighting for anyway, because as soon as your guaranteed money runs out, that's when guys start to ask for new deals. So the way that I would value Terry McLaurin is by giving him a higher number in the fully guaranteed department. We're going to push my Happy Gilmore thing to hour number 3. We still got a bunch of you on the line. We will take some more of your calls. We got a line open for you if you need. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. What is the number that you would give Terry McLaurin per season in a new contract based off of the number that Courtland Sutton got yesterday? It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980.
All right, here's what's happening on Tuesday, July 29th. Emmanuel Clase has been placed on paid leave as part of the MLB's latest gambling probe. He becomes the second Guardians pitcher to be tied to the investigation, joining Luis Ortiz. According to the Akron Beacon, Clase will be out until at least August 31st. And meanwhile, not great news for Terry McLaurin yesterday after Broncos wide receiver Courtland Sutton signed a 4-year extension worth $92 million, about $23 million a year. Same age as Terry going into the season. And in 2024, Terry McLaurin had just 15 more yards than Sutton, including 5 touchdowns. Colts left tackle Bernard Raymond signs a 4-year, $100 million extension that'll keep him in Indy through the 2030 season. Some more offensive line news. Commanders announced this morning that guard Nate Herbig has retired after 7 years in the NFL. Deion Sanders announced yesterday that he's beaten cancer. The Colorado head coach underwent a procedure to remove his bladder after doctors discovered a tumor. Since the surgery, it's been reported that there have been no traces of cancer and that Deion will be coaching in 2025. Meanwhile, the Nats, they win their third straight 2-1 over the Astros. Riley Adams with the lone home run of the ball game. They continue their series against Houston tonight. First pitch is at 8:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 7:40. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1 and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the streams and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the team 980. Taking your phone calls at 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. How much would you pay Terry McLaurin based off of what Courtland Sutton got yesterday? I would say $27 to $28 million, but I would up the guaranteed money, the fully guaranteed money, compared to some of the other guys that just got paid. Courtland Sutton got $92 million over the course of 4 years. Only 41 of that is fully guaranteed. DK has $60 million in full guarantees. T. Higgins has $30 million in full guarantees. So I would give Terry more guaranteed money, but maybe a little less on the AAV. Certainly not the 33 that DK Metcalf got. But what say you? Let's go to Reggie in DC. Reggie, what's going on, man? You're on the team 980.
Hey, man. Love the show. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
I think you hit it on the head when you just mentioned most of the time you get the big bite at the apple on your second contract.
Right.
He's trying to do it on his third contract. Most players, by the time they get to that third contract, they're later in their career. A lot of the miles have been accumulated on the tires. So I'm looking at it, and everybody that's in now again, DK Metcalf, that was a bad contract. And no world, when you look at the top 10, you got Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, DK, Amar St. Brown, Ayuk, Higgins, DJ Moore, AJ Brown. In no world is DK Metcalf better than those receivers. That was a bad contract. I get why Pittsburgh did it. I think when you ask how much, it's got to be at least above T. Higgins, 29, 30. So at least when you look at like the top 10, because that'll put him in the top 10. When you look at the top 10, those are number one receivers. So at least from a pride perspective and a, I guess, value perspective as our number one receiver, I guess maybe get him, there. But I don't even think, I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's going to get done. Terry's going to have to play out this contract this year. They're going to maybe sweeten it, give him some incentives and boost it up a little bit, that maybe this 1 year is, 29, 30. And then we'll look at it at the end of the year, maybe franchise tag or whatever. Right now, we're going in August at the end of the week. I don't think anything is going to change. Now you got Courtland Sutton's contract. So if I'm now negotiating from the team, I'm really now I'm more resolute that, okay, that DK Metcalf was a bad contract. T. Higgins is like 4 or 5 years younger. So You're going to be in that 27 to maybe 28 to 29. And I don't know. I don't think Terry's going to take it because he's looking at A.J. Brown and he's looking at DK Metcalf that was in his same draft class and say, listen, when you give me a quarterback, I can put up, comparable stats to them. But I don't think he's in an advantageous situation because of his. I think this is literally because of his age. Yeah. I don't think it has anything to do, but because if Terry was 27, this would have already been done by now. But I don't think this is going to get done, man. I think this is going to linger on. Terry's going to feel this is my fear. If it continues to linger on until, the second week or the second preseason game, you see what happened to Brandon Ayuk. He got a soft tissue injury and wasn't the same player, throughout the season. So I just don't see it, man.
Reggie, I appreciate the call. So a couple things that you pointed out that I do want to touch on. The DK Metcalf contract is not a good one. He's the 4th highest paid wide receiver right now behind Chase, Jefferson, and Lamb. All 3 of those guys are definitively better than DK Metcalf. You can even make an example of Garrett Wilson, say Garrett Wilson is better than DK Metcalf. He got paid more recently after DK's contract, and he got less money per year than DK. Not by a lot, but by a little bit. A.J. Brown is better than DK Metcalf. Brown is weird, though, because he kind of throws fits every year and a half or so. So I think he's like on his third contract total, 2nd with Philadelphia. They traded for him and then immediately signed him to an extension that I believe was 40 years, $100 million. And then he got another one. I think it's 4 years, 3 or 4 years. I think it's 3 years, $96 million. So he's at 32 per season, but he kind of throws fits, but he's also, I would say right now, A.J. Brown is probably the 4th best wide receiver in the NFL. So looking at some of these other wide receivers, you do point out, so like we've talked a lot about T. Higgins, right? And we've talked a lot about Brandon Ayuk. I think Terry's better than DJ Moore. DJ Moore is getting $27.5 million per year. He's 28. He signed that deal last year. So if you want to get him just a little bit ahead of DJ Moore, and his full guarantees, DJ Moore is $43 million, just shy of $44 million, fully guaranteed. So if you want to give him just a little bit more than what DJ Moore is getting, but really up those guarantees, he's not going to get a full guarantee contract, but really up those guarantees. That would be the way that I do it if I'm Washington. If you want to take the approach of let him play out the contract this year and then franchise tag him, that franchise tag for the wide receivers is a projected $28 million fully guaranteed. If you're going to give him a fully guaranteed $28 million next year, like, there are better ways financially to be able to spread that money out and continue to get better for whatever the hole that develops this year, unless the team goes and wins the Super Bowl, which, fingers crossed. But unless this team goes and wins the Super Bowl, you will have some holes on the roster that you want to fill next offseason. It's going to be very difficult if you decide to take the franchise tag approach, because that's a full guaranteed 28 that goes direct to the cap. Whereas if you extend Terry, you can kind of maneuver that money around and make it a little bit more team friendly while still making sure that he is getting his money. Ben Standing is going to join us in a few minutes. We'll hit a couple more calls here. Let's go to my guy TC in Maryland. TC, what's going on?
Thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
I believe that it should be 30 mil per, and they should give him a 3-year deal, no matter what. When you get to talking about T. Higgins' deal or whatever the case may be, yes, he's younger, but he's a number 2. Terry's our number 1. You got to pay him like number 1, and you got to remember, you got to do the fair market value of what's going on. I understand you talking about all this statistics and everything else, and you can't even address Courtney Sutherland because he just gained 1,000 yards this year. He ain't did nothing until this year. Terry's been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years, 1,000 yards, even with bad quarterbacks. Okay, now we got Jaden, the best quarterback, so you know he's gonna give you more. So 30 is the number. The guarantee, you on that. I'm with you on that. So you sweeten the deal, but you only give him a 3-year extension, not no 4 years, 3-year extension, and you sweeten the sentence and the guarantee money somewhere around like maybe 55, 60, somewhere in there, and the guy signs the deal in a minute. But
yeah, one thing, TC, appreciate the call as always. Sorry, we're up against it, and we got Ben coming up here. If they give him a contract and $60 million are guaranteed, he should take that contract. He should take if it's a fully guaranteed $60 million, he should take that contract, because that's better than a majority of the guys that are ahead of him outside of that top tier. What is important to mention is I have over the cap pulled up in front of me, just the list of wide receiver contracts here. The only guy that is currently getting paid more than Terry right now, this is on his current deal, which is an AAV of $23.2 million per year. The only guy that is currently getting paid more than Terry right now that is older than him is Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill will enter his age 31 season. He's on a 3-year, $90 million contract. That's $30 million per year. Again, bit of a diva going on there. If you're saying we should just trade Terry for Tyreek Hill, no, we should not. I'm good on that. Tyreek Hill, that contract's going to look terrible because eventually his speed is going to diminish a little bit. And did I mention that he is not exactly the best person to be around in the locker room? But that's the only guy that's getting paid more than Terry, who is older than him. Stephon Diggs is at $21 million per year. He's coming off a knee injury, so that's a little different, but he's at $21 million per year. He's older than him. Cooper Kupp just got $15 million per year. He's older than him. Mike Evans is getting $20 million, just shy of $21 million per year. He is older than him. So that the age is a little bit of a factor. You're still making good money at that age. Like Devontae Adams is 33 and he's getting 22 a year. So you're making good money at over the age of 30, but you're not making top money over the age of 30 outside of Tyreek Hill. Ben Standing going to be with us on the other side. His biggest takeaways from practice. Maybe he knows something we don't on this Terry McLaurin extension. We will ask him on the other side. It is the Kevin Sheehan Show. Dent Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. You can tweet me at the Denton Day. I've had a lot of good conversation about Terry, his contract, what you would pay him based on the Cortland Sutton deal. We will continue that conversation in probably about 20 minutes here. But joining us now after another day at camp is our guy Ben Standig. He is the host of the Last Man Standing podcast. He's writing on Substack as well. Go to his Twitter at Ben Standig and subscribe to his Substack there. Ben, appreciate the time as always. No pads today. How did everything look, though, for the offense and defense?
Yeah, Dan, always a pleasure. The defense, I think the defense looked better today than the offense did. And I feel like, again, obviously, the caveats, no Terry. I don't know if I saw Laramie Tunsil. He was out for individuals. I don't know if I saw him out on the field for the real fun. And the defense was just getting after the quarterbacks. Whoever was out there, it felt like they were having to get rid of the ball quick. A lot of short passes. The defense was riled up. But when they did throw the ball down the field, there just wasn't a lot of success. Deebo Samuel had a couple of really good plays. He's been a bright light through camp. But, the defense, look, we're all still kind of wondering how good this defense is going to be. And, a training camp practice does not change my attitude necessarily, but they obviously are banking on depth being key for up front. They never really got that one guy who's like a stud in his prime, but they do have a lot of guys. Obviously adding Von Miller lately, the latest piece. So today felt like an example of that, where they just had different guys coming from different angles, getting after them, and they getting after the offense in the line today. I think was just kind of getting beat up.
So this is the third day maybe in a row where the offense has struggled a little bit. Is that just a spotlight on them missing Terry, or would he fix some of the problems, or is it just still learning the offense?
Yeah, it's it's always hard to say. I mean, look, we don't know. Like, there was a stretch of practice where, I'm not kidding, it felt like they threw 5 or 6 the same pass down the sideline, just a straight deep shot, receiver goes, quarterback throws, and every single one went incomplete. Either the pass was overthrown, the receiver didn't give the quarterback enough space inbounds to connect, or whatever. And that wouldn't happen in a real scenario, right? They wouldn't keep doing this over and over again, but they clearly were trying to work on this play. Okay. So it's stuff like that where it's like, if they really were trying to move the ball down the field, so to speak, maybe things would be better. But it's definitely no cause for concern. The quarterback is, doing fine, but, meaning the main quarterback.
Yeah.
The rest, we kind of go from there. But yeah, I mean, I do think these 3 days really have sort of stood out even more, that Terry isn't there, because, again, Deebo's going to run a certain type of pattern. He's going to run your crossers, find ways to get him the ball on the move, because that's where his strength is, but not really down the field, routes. That's where Terry shines, and he's the one guy. So it is noticeable he's not there, but it's camp. You got to work out the kinks.
Have you heard anything since the Sutton deal in terms of the numbers? I know they're far apart still, but have you heard anything as to what those numbers are in these negotiations and what the holdup is?
Yeah, I mean, the way I've been operating here for a while now is that Terry's side is looking at the DK Metcalf figure, so roughly $33 million a year. And then, I mean, again, I don't know this for a fact, but that just seems like a good way to frame it on the upper end. I know Schefter said that they may be going for even beyond that. I don't know about that, but okay. And on the bottom end, I kind of was always going with the assumption that the T Higgins deal, 28.7 per year, would be the floor, and that could you get Terry there? I don't know, but now, as Cortland Sutton, what is it, 23 million?
23, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, in a practical sense, if they went and played tomorrow, Cortland Sutton's very good. I enjoy watching him play football. He just hasn't had the same career as Terry for whatever the reason, so Terry should be getting more. But I talked to somebody, an executive in the league, about this yesterday, and he was like, Sutton's at 23, DK's at 33, split the difference 28. That seems to be a reasonable call for all involved. I just wonder. Oh, look, I don't even know if that's where the team is at, but even if they are, I don't know that Terry side is going to do that. They can always make the funny numbers, make something look where it's averaging $32 million a year or something, when in reality it's not. Can they get to a deal like that satisfies them? I don't know. This has definitely gone on longer than I thought. It's hard to know exactly which side is being more stubborn. It feels like the Commanders at some point here, this doesn't seem like the guy I would want to really hold the line with of all the players. But, on the other hand, again, without knowing exactly what Terry is looking for, maybe it's, hey, we're not going to come close to what you guys want. When you get realistic, let us know.
Was he out there today after practice like he has been the past 2 days?
He was 3 days in a row. He's shown up after practice and done the rope line with fans, signing autographs. The first 2 days, he was down at a part of the field where we could have access to him. When he finished today, I think they purposely kept him away, or he kept himself away from where we were. So I was out there for a long time waiting for him. It was too hot, and he wasn't coming near us. So I think most of us bailed, but I don't think he talked.
Was his agent there again, or did he leave?
I did not see him. I think he was in town today, but I believe he was not out there on the field today. No.
I mean, honestly, go where the air conditioning was. It was hot as hell out there. Is there a reason why, he is under contract, he is in the building and technically, holding in, but he's in? Could they theoretically make him talk in the form of a presser the way that they have with Von Miller, Jaden, and a number of other players?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure if they could, but I don't think they want to.
Right.
They don't, remember a few years ago when Trent Williams had been holding out for, 10 weeks, shows up basically to do, so he could get credit for the rest of the year, sat in the locker room and then just proceeded to shred the organization from inside the building. Not that Terry is necessarily going to go that scorched earth, but obviously he was pretty strong and convicted of what he said a couple of weeks ago. And, you don't want that if you're them in the building. So, I don't think they wanted to talk, but obviously, he can do what he wants. We're all right there. If he wants to say something, he could do it in 10 seconds. He could walk up to the media room and start talking to us if he wants to, but I don't think his side wants to either. I think they're trying to make a point to some degree with this, hold in and then showing up, to adoring fans. I don't know the effectiveness of it at this point, to be honest, after the first day, but we'll see what happens.
Ben Standig with us here on the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. So at practice today and yesterday, right, we've been very big fans, at least I have, of JCM, Bill, Ja'Cory Crooksey-Merritt, whatever you want to call him. How has he looked? Is some of the fan love for him validated at this point, or is it just they're picking a guy to fall in love with?
Well, look, there's always, this is the fun of training camp. Everybody gets a training camp crush. It's typically somebody on the offensive side. And often it's guys, somebody who's not been drafted. The other Ja'Cory, the Ja'Cory Brooks, is more of the model of this, like, well, who's this guy? He looks interesting. This one was obviously drafted in the 7th round. Weird backstory, as we know, in terms of the ineligibility last year that basically caused him to miss the whole season at Arizona. But he has come in and just looked. I mean, he's a bigger frame than I thought he was. I mean, even one of the coaches told me when they saw him the first time, they thought he was bigger than to be expected. And, yesterday, I don't know if you saw the replay, the team put out a video of this play yesterday where Bill, as he likes to be called, he's running, he hits the hole, he does like the one-step cut up the field, does a little bit of juking while in the lane, then he gets out of the lane, and there's Tyler Owens, this massive safety waiting for him. And these two guys, to their credit, they didn't back off. They both went, wham into each other. Obviously, Owens can't tackle him because it's not allowed here.
Right.
So who knows what would happen. But, Crosby-Merritt stayed upright, kept his balance, kept his momentum, and kept going. I thought it was a really fun play for both guys. And, yeah, he runs violently. I mean, look, I'm getting a little concerned. I mean, I'm not acting like I planted the flag and said, Pat discovered him before anybody else. But I've been talking about this guy for some time now. Now everybody is like, that's the guy. And so it makes me a little bit nervous that it's getting, the hype is getting a bit crazy. But nonetheless, when he gets the ball, it is noticeable, even in a scenario where, the run game is, kind of stilted because you can't do that much. But he definitely got power. He runs violently, as Dan Quinn said, and he's got that burst to get up the field. And that's something this offense just didn't have last year.
I know we're still a ways away from that first preseason game, but are you expecting that he's going to get at least a decent amount of action to kind of see what he looks like in pads when you can go up against guys that are actually allowed to tackle you?
I would think he would get a lot. Obviously, as we know, like we're not expecting to see Jaden Daniels much. Who knows if, like, say, a Von Miller even plays, or some of those guys. But the rookies, I think he's playing. I mean, you've got to see what you have. And look, they've got some tough. There's some interesting decisions around the board. I did a way too early 53 player projection today, and look, I kind of want to keep 4 running backs. I ultimately didn't because the situations elsewhere made me think maybe you can sneak McNichols onto the practice squad or something. But you got to see what you have, and that's also in the case of, like, it's not just to make the team. What's he going to do on the team? I think he's got a chance to be up in the rotation, and if he is, then that takes away some work from Brian Robinson. You got to be sure that you want to do that. And maybe they decide, hey, as much as we like him, he's still too raw with pass protection. Not a factor as a receiver. There may be other things that, like from a fantasy football perspective, we're not really worrying about that they might, and that's what they need to see in a game. They can't have him get Jaden killed, with a missed block or things like that. So he can run. That's impressive. But yeah, I would expect him to get a good workload in preseason.
All right, so I didn't realize that you would put out your way too early 53 man. So if we look at the wide receiver spot, assuming health on a contract, Debo, Terry, Noah Brown, who else do you have making this roster, and how many guys do you have making the roster?
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey to me would be locks. I mean, barring the very unforeseen. After that, it's what gets interesting. We were debating this on the sideline, a bunch of us today. Conventionally, 6 receivers is a good number, and you have guys like Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne, Chris Moore, guys who are vets. Again, we're going to assume that Terry will be there by then. But, you've got guys who've been in this league. My contention, though, is, one, there's obviously roster spots. You got to, you can't look at it in a vacuum. What else are you going to do? 2, every year there's such a glut of receivers in this league that you can kind of get who you want onto the practice squad and not really worry about it. So I bet they can get 1 or 2 of those vets, 1 or 2 of their kids on the squad, and have guys if they need to. So I only have them going with 5 right now. Now others were saying they would go with 6, but again, is it 6 receivers but only 5 corners, or only 2 quarterbacks, or only 9 on the defensive line, or whatever it might be? Those are that you have to weigh in. And I just don't know that I'm like that impressed with any of these other receivers. Like I said, without Terry, the receivers have had a hard time getting open in sort of one-on-one matchups, and that is, if that's the case, why do I feel compelled that I have to keep that guy around? So
right.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Ben Standing with us here on the Kevin Sheehan Show. He put out his way too early 53. It's available on his Substack. Go to his Twitter at Ben Standing and subscribe to that if you are not already. How is rookie Josh Connerly looked, especially in the first couple of days of pads where he's been able to actually, make physical contact and work?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a work in progress. Like, there are 21-year-olds who are mature beyond their years, and there are 21-year-olds who still need some time to mature and grow and all that. And I think he's kind of one of those guys. I don't mean it physically. He's a monster guy, and he's got really good footwork. He's quick. I can see the athletic traits, but right now it looks a little bit like he's not quite ready for that. Now, in fairness to him, he's having to learn a new position on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
That is not where he played in the left tackle throughout college. He was a left tackle today for a little bit, just, moving guys around. And, it seemed a little more natural for him. But, my stance of late, the last few weeks has basically been, don't be shocked if Andrew Wiley starts week 1. He's a been there, done that guy. Ultimately, if the goal here is to help Jaden and keep him healthy and upright. So if there's any hesitancy with Connerly, you have Wiley who's done this. And again, him not starting week 1, or, maybe he doesn't even start until later in the year, if that's how it goes, not a big deal. Like, don't panic. Again, he's literally 21, a true junior out of college. He's not, he is very young in general, let alone going up against the men of the NFL. So, work in progress. Again, preseason games be a big test for sure. Joint practices as well to see how he performs. So I can see why teams would be interested in him. And now it's just a matter of fine tuning things and getting him more comfortable with this new spot.
If he does take steps in development to where maybe he's not the week one starter, could you foresee them kind of taking the approach that they did last year with Corn Lucas and Brandon Coleman, where they rotate him and Andrew Wiley, or do they want to avoid that?
They did it last year. So I think it's certainly, you got to put it on the table, and it would make sense. I mean, look, if they thought that it helped Coleman last year, then, good. Also, keeps Lucas engaged, I guess. And, Wiley to go from being a starter in the NFL for a few years in a row, including Kansas City, to being just a backup. And, this isn't a backup like the NBA where instead of playing 30 minutes, you're playing 10. This is going from 30 minutes to 0. So, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to get him some action for sure. I think it's reasonable that Wiley could start week one, like I said, in that rotation that you talked about. To me, it would make a lot of sense if they're not ready for Connerly to get it all right off the bat.
Who has been the biggest standout to you on the defensive side?
Probably Mikey Sanders still, I would say. I mean, he is just, he's made some interceptions, but it just seems like he's just been all around the ball, a lot of energy out there. Again, the defense, is winning these practices. The defense also has a sense at times, I think, of what the offense is going to run, because the offense is trying to do X and the defense has to counter, that to make it make sense. So they have a little bit of an edge in that regard. But Sanders still, whether he's been outside or inside, he has just been kind of everywhere, making the plays, talking the talk, walking the walk. So, yeah, I've been impressed with him. And, as much as we talked about Jaden avoiding a sophomore slump and continuing to develop, Sanders still looks like he's on his way to do the same thing.
Two more here for you. Dietrich Wise is a guy that I have been intrigued with. I know he's out there early at practice, at least on most days. He's one of the first guys out there. How has he looked at that defensive end spot? Is it fair to think that he's going to be the guy starting opposite side of Dorrance Armstrong?
Yeah, I would think so, with Von Miller being the change of pace pass rusher in obvious downs. When you look at Wise, what stands out, honestly, is just, the thing they talked about, getting bigger. When he's standing there next to, if it's Javon Kinlaw and Deron Payne's over there, I mean, they just look, you can just see the difference. They are just a massive group of human poundage and size, and whether ultimately, how does that translate to stopping the run? Obviously, they think it's going to be helpful, and they do have depth. They can rotate guys in on the edge, inside at tackle. So yeah, I think Wise to me is the clear front runner to be that starter opposite Dorrance Armstrong, with Von Miller then, like I said, coming in on passing downs, probably replacing Miller would be my guess. Replacing Wise would be my guess. But they can also use them all if they want to. Wise can move inside. So yeah, I think so far so good on that front. He's a polished vet. He knows what he's doing, and they at a minimum they need that based on what we saw last year. But I think they can get a bit more, especially in the run game.
Final thing here. I know they did it a little bit yesterday. Did they get into any special team stuff today?
Not really. I mean, there was just some basic. Boy, I'm trying to think. The days are starting to blend here. I think there was some basic punt returning kind of deal today. Yesterday, Debo, they were doing kicks, actual returns. I mean, not hitting, but just they had both sides blocking and covering. And Debo was back there a bit on the kick returns. I think as much as I'm opposed to Austin Eckler back there for the sake of his health, to keep him available on offense where they need him more. Look, Debo's also had the injury history, but he runs aggressively. He is not built like a traditional receiver, and finding ways to get him the ball more, even if it's in a return game, I don't think is a bad way to go. So I don't know if he's back there all the time. Maybe it's just that sort of special moment, fourth quarter, you're trailing, or surprise or something like that. But yeah, I think that's another way to go for them if they want to.
Ben, appreciate the time as always. Go hydrate, and it's going to be hot out there tomorrow, my friend. We'll do this again on Friday.
Denton, I appreciate it. I'm going to go collapse. See ya.
That is Ben Standing. He is the host of the Last Man Standing podcast, and he is now writing on Substack. Go to his Twitter at Ben Standing. Subscribe to it, and you get all his great coverage of the Washington Commanders. He joins us usually on Mondays and Fridays. It's Tuesdays and Friday this week, so he'll be back with us a few days later in this week. When we get back, we'll continue our discussion on training camp, plus something interesting that Dan Quinn said about Jaden Daniels ahead of year number 2. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. is the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980 at the Denton Day on Twitter. I promised a review of Happy Gilmore. For those that are interested, we'll do that in 15 minutes here before we get out of here and let Chris Russell take over. Camp is in full swing. We've talked a lot about Terry today. We just had Ben Standing on, talking about some other guys on offense, some other guys on defense. Haven't talked a lot about Jaden, despite the fact that he is literally the savior of the organization. There's a lot of media out at camp this week, national media. You know, our local team is there, and they do a great job. But there's a lot of national media out there this week. I know the Barstool guys, Grit Week, they were out there. I saw pictures of PFT. I didn't see pictures of Big Cat. I don't know if you've seen pictures.
He's there, but
he's definitely there. I mean, they got the bus out there. They got good parking for the bus, too.
Of course they did. That doesn't surprise me.
You know where I have to park? Not there.
Wow.
I park. I don't get to go inside. There's like a gate. If you've been to training camp, you know this. There's a gate. I don't get anywhere near the gate.
You don't get the tour that they get.
I do not. Although last week JP Finley nearly got his car stuck, or he did get his car stuck and got saved because he parked like in mud. I didn't do that, but I'm normally on the grass, close to trees. Don't love that, but it's fine. So the Barstool guys are there. A couple ESPN guys are there as well. We knew that Sports Center was there this weekend. Kevin O'Connor, who was a longtime Ringer affiliate now, or Kevin Clark, rather. Sorry. Kevin O'Connor's the basketball guy. Kevin Clark, who now hosts on ESPN with through Omaha Productions. So he through Peyton Manning's company. He got a one-on-one with Dan Quinn. Two things that I want to play for you from it that I find to be really interesting. I mentioned that he works with Omaha Productions because Omaha is run by Peyton Manning. Here's Dan Quinn talking about Jaden Daniels and comparing his preparation style to that of Peyton Manning.
Like Peyton, and I couldn't think of a better coach to start off with Tom Moore of this is step by step. When you're developing somebody, you don't want to miss one step on that ladder like this, and then we can get to this. And we'll be able to do some more things in year 2 because we've taken the right steps in year 1. So I think oftentimes as coaches, we want to hurry up and get to the next install, to the next thing, man. Let's make sure, what does the player know? What can they execute? And that's ultimately what matters. And so I think about Peyton and, his work ethic is legendary. Jaden has a lot of those traits from working and wanting to be right and loving football. And that's not something that's coming from coaching, but it's our responsibility to say, this step, and be very intentional about it.
So that's Dan Quinn comparing Jaden's work ethic to Peyton Manning. So just a really quick thing to point out, Dan Quinn never worked directly with Peyton Manning. They were never a part of, he didn't work with the organizations that Peyton Manning was a part of, albeit it was only 2, the Colts and the Broncos. But this is just through knowing coaches in the industry and taking notes. And I'm sure he's met and talked with Peyton Manning a number of different times, especially since Peyton is retired. He's very open with some of the things that he did and his preparation. So he never worked directly with Peyton Manning, but he knows in the way in which Peyton Manning prepares and can compare the two. This is not the first time we have heard these sorts of comparisons in terms of the preparation, attacking film the same way that he attacks practice. In fact, I believe that Tom Brady had mentioned something very similar during the broadcast of the Lions game last year. Tom Brady really was a fan of Jaden Daniels in that game in particular, in the lead up to that. It was almost like he was seeing little bits of himself in terms of the competitive nature of Jaden Daniels and the way that he prepares. Because the one thing that Tom and Peyton did really, really well was the preparation stuff. And you would constantly see them at the line of scrimmage, checking, reading defenses, making adjustments, audibling, all these different things. And it's funny, this time last year when we knew that Jaden Daniels was going to be quarterback 1, the question was, what kind of reign would he have in the offense? Would it just be Cliff telling him what to do, and then Jaden follows exactly what Cliff told him to? Or would there be some freedom to decipher defenses, read them at the line of scrimmage, and then make adjustments? And you can't do that at a high level if you're not preparing off of the field. So it was really cool during the course of the season to see Jaden get a little bit of that freedom and to see how he utilized that freedom. I think that's kind of what Dan Quinn was alluding to here, that preparation and watching the film. We know about the VR stuff, but in watching the film and being ready to get to the line of scrimmage and take a play, that is going one direction and then completely do a 180, make an adjustment. It is a trust that you're going to have with the offensive coordinator and the quarterback. Jaden and Cliff clearly have that, and then that's just all on Jaden being mentally aware enough and mentally strong enough to be able to do that at a high level this early on, because a lot of rookies cannot do that. And to be honest, it's unfair to ask rookies to be able to do that. You're coming from a college game to the NFL game. Everything looks drastically different, from the way that the field is set up to the defenses that are running to the way that your offense is set up, and where you're lining the football up at the college level is very different from where you're lining it up at the NFL level. Like, there's a lot of nuances that really differentiate the two games. So it's unfair to think that every single rookie is going to be able to come in and just do that at the line of scrimmage. But Jaden's ability to do that really separates him from, well, every other rookie that was in his particular class and rookies that we have seen in years past, bars. That's why he was the rookie of the year. That's why he had the best rookie season in NFL history for a quarterback. A little bit more from Dan Quinn talking with Kevin Clark of ESPN. This is what he said on challenging Jaden and some of the work behind the scenes.
What are you challenging him? I mean, you said a lot of it is just him wanting to be great. Obviously, he's going to put in the work, but in year two, I'm sure you're putting things on his plate. What are you challenging him with to get better at?
He started the offseason. These were specific technique things, so that was the on the field portion. Then, how can we also get rid of some concepts that, okay, was this worth the squeeze to go through it, and then add some. So that's the balance of finding the right flow that he and his teammates can, absolutely execute and go let it rip. But he's off to a great start. He's really focused and hard working dude, much like Peyton. The unseen work is really what matters the most, that they got to put it in.
Can you give an example of the unseen work?
The unseen work would be just recently, it's dark out, and I see him walking in the early hours of the morning, walking back off the field, because he was already going through some things that he wanted to do to be ready for that day.
That's a good silhouette to see.
Yes,
Your star player walking
I was
off
in the
the
weight
field.
room and looking out, and I'm thinking, okay,
you got it.
Yes,
yeah, we got it. We got it.
Yeah, I don't need to acknowledge that. I need to, and I know that happens. He's early and doing extra, but it is it's who he is. It's all the time, and it is one of the things I really admire about him.
So Jaden Daniels, we know he gets there early. We've known that for a while. They've been really good about telling us that, honestly. It did, to a certain extent, a little bit feel like just a smidge of propaganda. Hey, he gets here. We get it. He gets there early. First one in the building, last one out. We understand all those things. But it is nice to get a specific example, because I don't know what time Dan Quinn gets there. I would assume if he is in the weight room, he's working out before practice. Practices in the recent few days, because of the extreme heat that we're facing here, have been moved from 9 a.m. to 8 a.m. My guess is that a lot of them will be at 8 a.m. throughout the course of the rest of training camp, just because it's July and August in the DMV. Y'all know it. We know it's hot as hell out here. Humidity is just insane.
The worst.
I mean, I stuck my hand out a window. I like to drive with the windows down.
Of course.
I stuck my hand out the window the other day, and it felt like I stuck my hand into a pool. And I was like, yep, we'll do air conditioning.
It's like bath water.
It's terrible. It's terrible. But if Dan Quinn's getting there, let's just say practice starts at 8 a.m. He speaks with the media at around 7:30, 7:35, give or take. So he's probably in the weight room by about 6 a.m. to get a quick workout in, whether that just be hitting the treadmill for 20 to 30 minutes. I don't know how much he lifts. He's getting up there in age. Probably shouldn't be squatting. Certainly not back squatting.
Probably sticking to more cardio than weights.
Yeah, no bench press for Dan Quinn, hopefully, at this age. But if he's in there for 20, 30 minutes, we'll just say he's in there around 6 o'clock.
Yeah, sun's coming up about that time.
Sun's coming up. I guess sun's coming up now around 5:45 or so, which means Jaden's in there at around 5. At the very least, he's on the field probably about 5:30. And I know that they don't let media members in, I think, until 6. Because I know there are a bunch of the media members. David Harrison, who was with us yesterday, he gets in there incredibly early. Mitch Tischler, who is great. He's doing this bit on social media of getting the first guy out on the field. It's usually Dietrich Wise or one of the tight ends. So Jaden's out there before all of this. That unseen work, I think, is really special. So when we've had these conversations and listened to the out-of-towners, right, like the talking heads on your ESPNs, Foxes, well, less Fox now, but Foxes, CBS's, whoever, when the talking heads talk about, Jaden's probably going to regress in year number 2, I'm pumping the brakes with all of that. There's things that the national talking heads, there's details that the national talking heads do not have that we locally do because we're in this on a daily basis, a day in, day out basis. So that, I believe, is the first time I had heard Quinn tell a story like that. So I don't know if it just happened to take place today or if it's something that takes place every single day and no one had asked him about that because, Kevin Clark did a good job there. Give me an example of what you're talking about. Him being out there at like 5:45 would not shock me, but that speaks as to why he has the ability that he does to make some of the changes at the line of scrimmage. Because if he's sitting out there, he's simulating things in his head, whether
Absolutely.
that be with the VR, maybe he does have the physical VR out there. I don't know how that goes. Or he's doing did you ever hear this story about Drew Brees? This was years ago. I forget who told it. It was a guy that was high up with the Saints. It might have been Reggie Bush when Reggie Bush was a really good player there. It could have been somebody else. Who told it is not that important. The story was that this particular play, it was Sean Payton, the coach. What am I talking about?
Ding.
I thought Reggie Bush was telling the story. It was Sean Payton. Sean Payton was driving by the facility on a bye week. This was early in his tenure there. He's driving past the facility and he sees one dude out on the field on a bye week, and it's Drew Brees simulating plays in his head. And he's effectively doing what like kids do when they're younger, don't have anyone to play with.
Doing what Russell Wilson did on the field with his
but better.
injury,
Yeah.
but way better.
But
and
way better.
Out of the eye of the media.
And he's just throwing the ball and then going up, picking up, and then running it from there, right? But he's throwing the ball. He's simulating plays. He's throwing the football. Do you need to do that to be successful? Maybe not. There might be an element of that with Drew Brees that is a tad bit performative, but I do think that there's a very, very big deal in wanting to do the work. If you're not following 980 and 1067 on social media, you might have missed this, but
why aren't you?
Yeah, why aren't you? Follow us. Linnell did a really good thing yesterday on social media.
He's been crushing it.
His content has been on fire. He did a really great thing yesterday. I want to play that for you when we get back here. So I'll give time to Max to pull it a little bit.
Thank you.
Then I'll also finally pay off this like hour-long tease. I watched Happy Gilmore too. I'll let you know my thoughts on it. So you'll hear what Linnell got from Jaden that really speaks to everything that Dan Quinn just said, and we'll review Happy Gilmore too. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Dente sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980.
All right, here's what's happening on Tuesday, July 29th. Emmanuel Clase has been placed on paid leave as part of the latest MLB gambling probe. He becomes the second Guardians pitcher to be tied to this investigation, joining Luis Ortiz. According to the Akron Beacon, Clase will be out until at least August 31st. Not great news for Terry McLaurin after the Broncos re-signed Courtland Sutton to a 4-year extension yesterday worth $92 million. That's about $23 a year. Same age as Terry McLaurin going into the season, and in 2024, McLaurin had just 15 more yards than Sutton and only 5 touchdowns. Colts left tackle Bernard Ryman signs a 4-year, $100 million extension that keeps him in Indy through the 2030 season. Some more O-lineman news. The Commanders announced that guard Nate Herbig has retired after 7 years in the NFL. Meanwhile, Deion Sanders announced yesterday that he has beaten cancer. The Colorado head coach underwent a procedure to remove his bladder after doctors discovered a tumor. Since the surgery, it's been reported that there have been no traces of cancer and that Deion will be full go for coaching in 2025. The Nats, they win their third straight with a 2-1 win over the Astros. Riley Adams with the lone home run of the game. They'll continue their series against Houston tonight. First pitch is at 8:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 7:40. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1 and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the streams and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. Denton Day sitting in for Kevin here on the Team 980. You can tweet me at the Denton Day. You know what I just found out during the commercial break, Max?
What's that?
I am clearly a rookie. You know who's coming up next? Chris Russell. You know who will not be sitting in an 83-degree studio? Chris Russell.
You know,
I mean, I have
been doing it for as long as he has. You learn.
I have the ability to do the show from home. Had I known it was 83 degrees, you know what? I'm part of the team. I'm part of the team.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. It's solidarity is what it is.
We are loyal to the soil together. All right, speaking of the team, Jaden Daniels is the savior of this franchise.
That's
we were
right.
just talking about Dan Quinn talking with Kevin Clark of ESPN on some of the unseen things, right? And I mentioned the social media game for Team 980 1067 The Fan, and it was we are one big happy family now. It's been cracking, right? Linnell's been out at training camp just about every single day. I've been out there a bunch, not this week, obviously, because I'm doing this show. But when I'm not filling in for Kevin, I usually make my way out there. Content game has been crazy. Linnell in particular has done a really good job. He had a great WWE question the other day, really put over Rey Mysterio. I'm a big Rey Mysterio guy. He's not my favorite WWE wrestler ever, but I'm a big Rey guy. So I love that.
He was big in that era.
Oh, my God.
Because I remember as a kid, I didn't even grow up a wrestling guy, but like Rey Mysterio was
Rey Mysterio is the number one luchador of that particular era, maybe all time, unless you want to get deep into the weeds of like some luchadors, which if you want to have that conversation, tweet me at the Denton Day. But they a lot of commanders, guys like Rey Mysterio. Yesterday, Linnell asked the question of celebrities. Who do you want to see celebrity-wise? And if you didn't see this, you can find him on Twitter at NELL_BTP. But he tweeted this, and I want you to listen to Jaden Daniels' answer to this question. You got a bunch of different players in here, but listen to the answer of our quarterback, Jaden Daniels.
Well, and with something light here, you guys got a bunch of primetime games this year. If you could think of any celebrity to come watch you play in one primetime game, who would it be?
I'll tell Lotto to come see me.
Yeah, that's
great answer.
Starving. Lotto, so Big Mama to come see. Rappers, movie star, actors.
Probably The Rock.
The Rock.
The Rock and Shaq.
If you could have any celebrity come watch y'all play in primetime, who would it be?
Can you pull back up?
Yeah. Jaden, which celebrity you want to come see you guys play in primetime?
You can't even hear it.
Any celebrity.
Oh, you can't hear it?
No, but you can read the
All right.
caption, and the caption says, I don't know,
Nobody.
I'm too locked in.
He said, I am too locked in. I love this, man. I would take a bullet for Jaden Daniels.
I'll drag, like,
Because the crazy thing is the celebrities would be coming to see him.
Yeah.
Like if there's one question or one person where this question is particularly relevant to, it is Jaden Daniels, and he don't give a damn. And I do think that's real. And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because this isn't like a silly little bit. I do believe this to be real. And I think the comments that Dan Quinn made today are kind of a reflection of that. He ain't out doing a bunch of stuff, partying, messing around. I did see him shopping at Tyson's this weekend, went to a shoe place. But he's not out here messing around. When it's about the work, it's about the work. He's getting in there early, simulating some stuff on the field, putting in that unseen work so he can take this franchise and take himself to heights that they want to get to, which those overlap. The heights we want to get to, the heights he wants to get to is winning a championship. I absolutely love this dude. And he has gotten a little bit more personal is probably not like the best word in the world, but he's a lot more talkative in interviews.
Talkative and comfortable is, I think.
Comfortable is probably the best way.
Yeah.
He let the guard down a little bit in interviews. I thought Sheik Hernandez had a really good interview with him last week.
He did. And I think we're going to get, because there's something, that's why PMT is so successful, is that they are able to kind of work it in and get guys like Jaden to let their guard down. So that interview should be coming up since they're, out there at camp.
I mean, I can't imagine they'd be out there and not interview Jaden Daniels. Like, that seems like, not that anyone else would be shortcoming, but if Terry's not there, you're not going to interview Terry, obviously. They won't let him talk to the media. They're not going to let him talk to Barstool. You probably want to interview Jaden. Maybe Bobby gets on there, but like Jaden is
Jaden's the big draw.
He is certainly the big draw. All right, couple minutes here before I get out of here. I've long teased this for 2 days because I tweeted about it the other day. I joined the rest of a majority of us, and I watched Happy Gilmore 2. Now, I did not see Happy Gilmore 1 until like 4 weeks ago. I'm not like a massive Sandler guy.
Sure.
Like him, don't love him. I think Happy Gilmore came out, like 96, 94, something like that?
Something like that.
Well, I was born in 95, so I wasn't watching that when it came out, and I just never got around to it when I was younger.
96.
Watched Happy Gilmore 1 a couple weeks ago, watched Happy Gilmore 2. This has been a polarizing film, apparently, on social media. I don't know. Admittedly, Max, I don't know what some of y'all were expecting.
Right. Like,
It's a golf movie that made by Adam Sandler, and it's
And
a sequel
Netflix.
25 years, almost 30 years in the separating the two films. Like, what did you expect this to be? Is it silly? Yeah. Is it goofy? Yeah. Is there like this great interwoven story? No. I don't want to see that.
It's not coherent cinema. What are you talking about?
No. Like, is the ending kind of goofy without spoiling it? Yeah, it's kind of goofy. Was I sitting there like, yeah, this is really, really silly? Yes, but it's Happy Gilmore.
It's the point.
Like, I don't think this is Tiger walking up 18 in 2018 with the red. Like, I don't think that's what this is. It's just is Adam Sandler being goofy with a bunch of celebrity friends and then a bunch of new celebrity friends, because there's like 104 cameos in this thing. Like, they're definitely people that I missed. There's a bunch of golfers in the thing. There's a bunch of celebrities.
Shout out Paige.
Paige Spiranek was in there. Like, what is funny is that, like, Paige Spiranek had her, I guess, does she have a podcast? Maybe she does. I don't know. She had a podcast in there. I think she does, because I saw she had a pretty silly setup at the Super Bowl. I saw her like set, and I was like, damn. I got it, but I was like, damn.
Hey, man, I've seen her set too, and I have the exact same reaction.
So it is funny that like her podcast exists in the universe of Happy Gilmore, but like Eminem can also cameo as some weird dude's dad and not have us be like, hey, this is clearly Eminem. So like there were some inaccuracies or maybe some things that you have to look past there. Travis Kelce was very, very funny. You know who I thought really stole the movie? Bad Bunny is hilarious.
I've heard
in Happy
this.
Gilmore. Bad Bunny is hilarious. The nuances of the way he moves, the way like his comedic timing. Like there was a scene, and I think this was in the trailer, so I don't feel bad spoiling it. There was a scene where he is the caddy for Happy Gilmore, and then he just walks off without the bags, and then Adam Sandler, Happy Gilmore's like, hey, you got to go get the bags. And then just the way that he moved in that was like the most hilarious thing, because he's clearly not a caddy. He was a waiter in the film that, lost his job. Sorry, that's not a huge spoiler, I don't think. But he loses his job, and now he's caddying for Happy Gilmore. And it like something about that was funny. That is what an Adam Sandler is to me. Movie is to me. Just like a funny movie. It's silly. I'm not looking too serious into this thing. I'm not expecting Happy Gilmore 2 to get any sort of Oscar, to get any sort of, I don't know what other television or movie awards there are. I think Oscar's the big one.
Oscars, Emmys.
Emmy, like Globes. It's not getting an Emmy. It ain't getting a Golden Globe, but it was funny. And it was nice to see. I'm a big MJF fan because I'm a big pro wrestling guy. It was nice to see MJF in there. I like Becky Lynch because I'm a big pro wrestling guy. It was nice to see Becky Lynch in there. There was another wrestler in there. All of her lines got cut. I know that because she said that on her podcast and she complained about it. But Nikki Bella was in there. It was nice to see Nikki Bella in there. I just like to see all, like the cameos actually kind of became a joke for me to where I just wanted to see who was next. Who's gonna make the cut in this thing? Dan Patrick was in there. I love Dan Patrick. If they do a Happy Gilmore 3 or maybe a Waterboy 2, Derrick Henry has to be in it.
Easily.
Like Derrick Henry is the next big athlete to cameo in an Adam Sandler film. We know how much Derrick Henry likes Adam Sandler. We've seen that. It's gone like semi-viral because of Dan Patrick. Dan Patrick obviously got the in with Adam Sandler, but I thought the movie was exactly what I expected it to be. It was silly. It was goofy. It was an Adam Sandler movie in 2025. It's not an Oscar-winning thing. The storyline is a little goofy, but that's what it is meant to be. So I liked it. Max, I would encourage you to make some time to watch it as well. I'm going to start watching this WWE like Unseen show today.
I saw it this morning. I saw Schefter tweet out, and then I was like, oh, when's this coming out?
Yeah, well, I don't know why Schefter is tweeting out about this, but Shefty's going to Shefty.
Listen, man, Netflix slides him a little bit of money on the side. Why would he say no?
Sometimes I don't know if it's like he's getting paid for it or if he just wants like the clout of it. Regardless, he tweeted it out, and he got it to you. So that's all that matters. You probably wouldn't have seen that if Adam Schefter didn't tweet that out.
It's true. I probably wouldn't have.
So I'm going to watch that today. We got a great show tomorrow. Steve Weish is going to join us tomorrow. Jordan DeJani going to be with us as well. We will have a commander on Thursday at noon. I will let you know who that is, hopefully by tomorrow. That's it for me. Chris Russell comes your way next on the Team 980.